Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the podcast. I am your host, Roberto, also known as Robbo. Now, as mentioned on episode 0, I have many names, but in the future, I'll be introducing myself depending on the guest that I have. My guest knows me as Roberto or Robbo. And who's my guest, you might ask? Well, my guest is someone I have known since freshman year of college. We live in the same freshman dorm. He's a fantastic individual, an electrical engineer, a good friend, and more importantly yet, a good human. My guest is Chris.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for introducing me as a great human. And that's the baseline of what we all humans should strive for.
Absolutely, yeah, we strive for it, and sometimes we struggle with it, but I think you nail it down pretty well.
Oh, stop. You're just saying that.
So, Chris, how have you been?
Doing all right. It's a nice, toasty summer day. I'm chilling at your makeshift studio over here, and it's pretty great. I'm excited to be your first guest here.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and yeah, it has been hot. These past few days have been insane, like over 100 degrees in San Jose. Really, like, oh my God, it's been
not as hot as you though. Just putting it there.
Flattery.
Yes.
Love it, love it. And there's one thing I like about Chris. He's a super kind-hearted individual who's not afraid to compliment and make you feel good with words.
I am a flatulist. What are they called?
A flatulist.
Wait, that sounds bad.
No, but yeah, we've known each other same freshman dorm, Froso Co.
Yeah.
You were roommates with Pedro.
That's right.
And I knew Pedro first only because my roommate, Ivan, he introduced me to all the international students at Froso Co. And so I met Pedro first, since he's from Brazil. Then I met you.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's like there's a good number of people who were roommates with internationals. So we all just knew each other through that. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. Just to have that kind of experience. Like, not only am I going to starting college with all these brand new people, but I'm also my first friends in college are also going to be all international, which I'd never really experienced before. Yeah. So it was like 2 layers of culture shock right there, which was cool. Because, I got to learn a lot of things. One thing we did learn a lot is how to cuss and say rude things in different languages.
That's right.
Mandarin, German, Cantonese, Portuguese.
That's right. I was going to say Brazilian, but that's not right.
That's not right.
No. Yeah, it was a very multicultural crowd right there. It was cool.
Yeah, no, it was a great time.
Do you remember how we first met? I don't remember, unfortunately.
That is one issue that I've noticed. I don't remember the exact first moment that I met a lot of people.
Yeah.
It just, in my head, it's like, oh yeah, we met. And I asked my brain, oh yeah, when and where? I don't know, but we just met.
I know for me, the first time I truly met, or I felt like I truly got to know you. I think this also goes in line with this whole music themed podcast as well. Was I remember the time I got introduced to Queen was by you. And I don't remember what the context was, but you were playing music from Queen. And then I was like, whoa, this is pretty good stuff. Your 0th episode, you mentioned Bohemian Rhapsody as being one of your huge, inspirations back in your youth for knowing music. Mm-hmm. That was... I listened to Bohemian Rhapsody because of your introduction to me to Queen, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think "Don't Stop Me Now" was another really good one.
That's my favorite Queen song.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, and then I think I always associate you with Queen.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and Freddie Mercury has the charisma and the confidence of of someone like Freddie. I don't know. I don't know how to explain, but he's pretty legit.
Yeah, his presence is immense.
Yeah, and and I feel I sometimes associate you with him as well. So it's kind of like that effect.
Wow, that's extremely flattering. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Folks, this is what I'm talking about. He just knows how to say such nice things.
They both got great mustaches. It's and you can't see in this podcast, but I can. So neener.
Yeah, give the audience something to be jealous about.
That's right.
But yeah, it blew my mind the first time you told me that I introduced you to Queen, because I thought everyone had heard Queen, and there was a meme for a while on the internet where remember the movie came out, and then a bunch of people started putting these videos on YouTube where they would react for the first time listening to Queen. And there was this big, better known YouTuber, Gus Johnson. You may have heard of him.
Nope.
He's a funny guy.
Sorry, Gus.
No, Gus is a great YouTuber. He has a lot of sketch comedy, super wholesome, super nice, and super funny. And he made a video like talking about it. He's like, how have these people never heard of Queen? Like, I get it, you may not have grown up with it, but like it's used in commercials, it's in stadiums, it's everywhere. And so
Yeah, so I knew Queen's music, of course, of the "We Will Rock You" song. Like,
okay, yeah.
you know, like it's a song you commonly hear in like how to say, like games and things like that. Didn't realize it was from Queen.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Have I heard of? I've actually listened to Bohemian Rhapsody when I was like I forget, when I was younger, when I didn't know things, like I didn't know anything better in the world, so I didn't really appreciate Bohemian Rhapsody at that time of my life.
Yeah.
But then when I like got older, like, you know, understood things better, I felt like I was able to appreciate Bohemian Rhapsody more at the time when you had introduced it to me. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad. No, yeah. I'm glad I was able to introduce something so great.
Yeah. I know music is like a huge part of your life also, so it's always really cool and interesting hearing your insights in like music. I don't, and like it's cool. It's definitely broadened my horizons. I would say that was one of the things that pushed me to be more interested in like classic rock, that kind of a thing. So yeah, it's great.
Cool. No, I'm glad. And we'll definitely talk more about music later because we have our albums to discuss.
That's right. A
But
little spoiler alert there. Sorry.
well, I've kind of spoiled it already. I kind of been posting on my social media on like what albums we'll be discussing. But before that, let's see. Let's move on. Right now, Chris, tell us what we're drinking.
Yeah, we're drinking a Moscow Mule.
Moscow Mule. Yes.
That's right. With a combination of a grams ginger ale.
Chris, I can discuss the ingredients. I bought them.
Oh.
Why don't you introduce the cocktail?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to.
No worries.
Yeah.
No worries. So yeah, we are drinking Moscow Mule. It's a very classic drink. It's a vodka-based cocktail for those who don't know. So it starts with vodka. We get some ginger ale, and traditionally served with lime juice. However, I used lemon juice. The reason I use that is because we have lemons in our backyard, which are quite tart, quite sour. And so I figured, like, you know what, they're sour enough, and what better ingredient than to use one that's fresh in your backyard. So I picked a couple, literally just like an hour ago, cut them up, juiced them, put them into these cups, and a few ice cubes, and there you go. And most importantly, I should add, they're served in copper mugs. If you ever go to a bar and they serve Moscow Mules not in copper mugs, that bar is not worth their weight in salt. I've had that a couple
I did not
times,
know that. Yeah.
and it's always heartbreaking when I see that, and I'm like, really? Like, come on.
Is that a thing that bars have? Copper mugs?
Yeah,
Really? Oh, okay.
I have them, and I'm just a dude.
That's true.
Bars, they're...
Hey, they're fancy. They're like complicated dudes out there, you know. But I guess you might be one of those complicated dudes.
Maybe. Well, actually, to be honest, these copper mugs was a gift set from, 2 years ago? I think you pitched into this gift.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Yeah, it's from like 2 years ago.
Okay. Hey, it's great. You're using stuff.
Yeah, full circle.
That's right.
Yeah. So the set actually came with 4 copper mugs total, a copper copper shot glass, whatever you want to call that at that point.
I would describe it that way, yeah.
And a copper straw. So it was cool. Yeah.
Wait, what's the copper straw? Well, okay. I was gonna say like what it's for, but it's a silly question.
I assume to sip and stir.
Damn.
I haven't used it yet, but I mean I have these. And yeah, copper mugs are really interesting because you have to like take extra care of them. Obviously you have to wash them, right? But if you don't do what is called the double dry technique, then they'll start to not look good. Get like this black kind of, instead of being like shiny and coppery, they'll turn like this black and ugly color. And basically what the double dry technique is, you wash it, you rinse it, and then you dry it off, and you're good to go. But the double dry technique is once you have passed that drying phase, you got to dry it again. Get another fresh paper towel or a fresh towel that's completely dry and wipe it down again. The point is to get as much moisture out as you can, because any moisture left behind will result in that yucky blackness that you don't want.
Is that... I might be spreading fake news. Is that like the Statue of Liberty turning green effect thing?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
Similar idea. I think...
Is that copper?
Yeah. Statue of Liberty is copper that turned green over time. So it's exposed to the elements.
That's right. Okay.
You know, the air, water, and of course the sea breeze. And nothing does well with the sea breeze over time. Sea breeze eats and destroys anything mechanical.
It's corrosive.
Very corrosive. Yeah, insanely so. But yeah. So yeah, we are drinking Moscow Mules, and I love them. I ordered them quite a few times at bars. A good drink to have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, before I forget, I want to say this at the beginning, but I'll say it now. If you're not at least 21 years old, I do not endorse you to drink. I do not endorse underage drinking. So if you are underage, do not drink. Okay, my lawyer is nodding. We're good.
Yeah, FBI, we're okay. I'm above 21. Is that the age? 21.
Yeah, 21.
Thank you.
Yes,
that's the age.
We're both 26.
Yes.
Actually, you just recently, as of a week ago, you were 26. We had that joint birthday party.
That's
you
right.
And Pedro and all these other Frosico friends were there. And
Frosico is the name of the dorm that we all went to. Yeah.
Our freshman and sophomore dorm.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because Frosico is a short thing for freshman, sophomore college.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, who lives there but freshmen and sophomores? And so we spent, 2 years there. It was a great time. But yeah, the party was a lot of fun. Got to meet a couple of new people, see some people I hadn't seen in a very long time.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And yeah, it was incredible. And I think my favorite part of the party, aside from like seeing everybody and celebrating you and Pedro, was how much support people actually gave for my podcast. Either they had listened to episode 0 and said nice things about it, or they had never heard of it. I explained the idea to them, and they just gave a ton of support for it. They're like, "Oh, that sounds awesome! I want to listen to it," which kind of blew me away. I was kind of expecting this to be like a little silly project just for me, but there's a lot of support out there, and I really appreciate all the positive things people were saying. Arun said a really nice thing. Yes, Arun, I'm putting you on blast right now, but
you're no longer anonymous on the internet.
Yeah, no, he said something super nice. He said he listened to it. And he told me that I really nailed the NPR voice. And I was like, oh, wow.
Congratulations.
I had no idea. I wasn't going for NPR specifically. I just wanted to go for something that was nothing with too many spikes, kind of a smooth voice. That's what I was aiming for. And I guess it worked. And so I'm really happy that he said that. And I rode that high for 5 days. I was like, yeah, man, I'm doing good.
All right.
But yeah, no, overall it was a great time. Great party.
Yeah. I think people are genuinely supportive, especially friends that you care about, Yeah. We're always interested in hearing about what the things that you care about. I think it's cool. It's basically we're taking Roberto and compressing him into several bites and then just spitting him out into you're doing it yourself. I'm not doing anything. But spitting you out to the world to see.
Yeah.
That sounds disgusting.
No, but yeah, I like what you said. People are generally supportive of these kind of ideas, which is important to say because there was a period of my life where, significantly long period of my life where, I struggled believing that, Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get in your own head and there's that voice in your head and telling you all these negative things and you start to believe the opposite of what is reality. And yeah, it gets there. So when I finally made my way out of that, it was good. And I'll definitely talk more about that phase of my life in a future episode. But for now, I kind of want to talk about us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sipping on these Moscow Mules, super tasty. But, Chris, why Moscow Mules?
Yeah, so I just want to give a shout out to my younger brother. His name is James. Hello, James. He's 3 years younger than me. Okay. He just recently graduated from college. And yeah, I would say that the reason, so when Roberto asked me to just think of a drink that has a meaning to you, and I immediately thought of the Moscow Mule because that was the first beverage, I guess, the first beverage that my brother had recommended or served, not served, or made for me, I guess. And yeah, I think as an interesting, my brother and I have a pretty interesting dynamic in that I guess I'm the older one, and growing up in an Asian family kind of thing, school was pretty important, and then there's often you have a lot of pressure and a lot of stress with regards to like meeting expectations of like becoming someone that's like useful in society and stuff. I think like I often felt bad growing up because I often felt like I was putting a how to say too much pressure. I was like putting too much pressure on my brother on like becoming someone that like he shouldn't be, if that makes sense. And as a result, that sort of put a strain on like in particular my mom of like pushing him to like be better or like to like ask him like why he's not doing certain things or something like that. But like I often felt like because of that he often feels like really scared of like trying things or just like being confident and things like that.
Yeah. So before we move on,
Yeah,
so
shoot.
the problem was it more of like you kind of set the bar pretty high, and your parents saw that bar and kind of forced him to like, hey, look, he set this bar, you can reach it too.
I think yeah, they tried really hard not to do that. But I think like it's always implicit. There's always something like
Yeah.
deep seated that you feel that way. And like I sometimes feel like a little bad about my brother for doing that. But then what I always felt was like for him to like truly be like legit is for him to go out and like find himself and be his own person. And like he did that like really well when he went to college.
Oh, nice.
And which I'm super proud of him. He did like 2 fraternities. I don't know how you do that, dude. It's just like that's a lot of socializing, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then and what was cool was he found like a good group of friends. He like tells me stories, and like I noticed that like there's even some people that some of his friends that he really is like worried about. I think there was one time where like my brother was like texting on the side and he looked really distraught, and I was asking him like, "Oh, you doing all right?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, my friend's going through some stuff." And I was like, "Oh, first of all, sorry for that guy, but two, that's awesome that like you have someone that's like confiding in you for that, which is like, oh, that's awesome."
Yeah.
And another thing also that I'm super proud of is that he found his own. He ended up finding his own job and like finding his own way in life, which is like pretty amazing. I think he's working at not technically Sandia National Labs. I think he's a contractor for them.
Okay. Yeah.
But like mechanical engineer now, and like yeah, he's
Nice.
he found his path.
Yeah.
It definitely and I think it definitely required him to like find his own self, which was like really good. And as a result, I think what's cool now is that he shares a lot of it's when you pitch this idea to me of this podcast of like sharing drinks and sharing music, I think about wow, that's kind of exactly what what my brother is really good at. In that, with me, he shares a lot of like, oh, this is a cool drink, try it, Chris. Oh, here's like a cool album, you should listen to this, Chris. And
Nice.
so the Moscow Mule was basically probably the first beverage that he like recommended to me, and then so I recommend. So we're drinking Moscow Mule in his celebration. So yeah, here's looking to you, James. Man.
Yeah. Let's toast James.
Yeah, good job,
Cheers.
James. You worked
Yeah.
hard and you found your own self, and I'm really proud of you for that.
Absolutely. Good
And
work, James.
your birthday is coming up next Saturday. Is it 23rd? What day is today? 17. I don't know, dude.
Okay.
Time
Yeah.
is like
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
time
Cool.
is
Cool.
fluid.
I'm also glad you felt comfortable enough to share your brother's birthday on a podcast.
Oh, is that not a thing?
That's fine.
Oh, sorry, James.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I
I
went
hope
to.
the FBI doesn't dox you, man.
Well, the FBI has a file on all of us.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
Alright. But yeah, that's really cool that you have that connection with your brother, and the Moscow Mule means that much to you.
Yeah, it didn't. I would say our connection wasn't a strong, like, prior to college. I think it became stronger, like, afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like growing up with siblings, it can be a hit or a miss kind of a thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. You have like, you're the middle child, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have an older brother and a younger brother. And they're both cool. They're both very different people. It's funny. I think of us as like on a spectrum of socializing,
Mhm.
whereas my older brother, he is like the most social out of all of us. He likes to go out every weekend. He goes to bars and clubs and is chatting people up, and he's making friends, and like he's like social butterfly, this guy. And I think that's a really cool quality about him. And then we have my younger brother who is the complete opposite. He has no interest in going out, or usually doesn't have a lot of interest going out. He's much more comfortable on his computer, talking to his friends on Discord, playing games with them, whether it be, League of Legends, Overwatch, Civilization 5 or whatever. Much more comfortable living his social life through there. And me, I feel like I'm in the middle. Like, sure, most days, half to most days, I'm in my room on my computer talking to people through there. But then I have other days where I'm like, I have to go out, I have to talk to people, I have to see people. I always have that need, that drive. And so, I'm always going out. That birthday party was a lot of fun because it filled that need of mine. And this is great because it's kind of in the middle. Like, one, I get to socialize with you, but at the same time, I'm kind of doing something for the internet side of me as well.
Yeah. Porque no los dos.
Porque no los dos.
That's right.
And so, yeah, so I feel like we're on a spectrum there, like all of us. And yeah, I think we're all doing great in our own terms. And yeah, and our relationship is, sometimes, or a lot of times I play with my brother online, these games, usually Overwatch. And my older brother, I occasionally see him, and when I see him, we've gone out a couple times up in the city. We went to a gay club together. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
It was
Wait, your brother is in the area now?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
He
I
lives
didn't
in
know
Daly City.
Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, actually, no. I think he just moved. I haven't I haven't talked to him in a while. This just proves that. I think he just moved because his job just moved or something like that.
Okay.
But still, like, relatively in the area,
In
I
the Bay
believe.
Area. Okay.
I don't know, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, when I went to see him, we went out, and I think it was called like the cafe in the city, and we also went to the makeout room.
Nice.
It was like a tiny little bar club area. It was cool. They were playing what do you call it? I was gonna say the general term was just Latino music. No, reggaeton. There you go.
Oh, okay.
They were playing more reggaeton, and it was really cool because I hadn't heard like reggaeton on like speakers in a long time, like a big speakers in a club setting. And then we went to the cafe, and that was a lot of fun. First time seeing go-go dancers.
What?
You never heard of go-go
What's a
dancers?
go-go dancer?
Yeah, I always ask that too because I always hear people say like, "Oh yeah, there was go-go dancers there," and I'm like,
Okay.
"Are they people who
Are they?
do they dance?"
Yeah,
Like,
oh, yeah, I guess. Are they?
and I'm like, "What?"
Did they?
It just turns out go-go dancers, from my experience, maybe my definition is wrong,
Okay.
but from what I saw, it's strippers who dance who already have most of their clothes off. So there isn't much of the stripping going on. It's just more of
okay.
them like already like half naked and dancing, earning their money and doing their thing.
Okay.
And yeah, it was great. It was mostly dudes, very handsome dudes. Like they were very much in shape. But there was also,
I think. Wait, what was this place called again?
I think it's called the Cafe, something like that.
Interesting. I think I passed by a place with like what's this thing you call go-go dancer, but like dudes in
Okay.
San Francisco.
I would imagine there's a lot of go-go dancers,
Yeah.
male go-go dancers in the Castro district
That's
in
fair.
San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, it was a good time.
Okay.
So yeah, I spend my time with them. Not a lot of time, but I don't feel like I need to spend a lot of time with them. Like, we check in every now and then. How are you doing? I'm good. Great. And then we move on. Because we have very different lives. And I think I respect that. And I think it's cool that we kind of respect that with one another.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think that's fine.
Yeah, because we're all different people.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
And I think the important thing is like when things like things are like serious, then like you were there like for that. That's like the important part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that's like probably similar experience I have with my brother too. Like we check in once in a while, share random things, and
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's start talking about music.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, you may have seen when I was promoting this episode, but the albums we'll be discussing are Hospice by the Antlers and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. Now, Hospice is an album that Chris recommended. So, I'm curious, Chris, this indie rock album from 2009.
Came out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Like, what's your story with it?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I once again when you pitched this idea of discussing like music, I had to think really hard about which one to think about. I think a lot of people who might know me, I tend to be what's the word, basic, I guess. Like my taste in music is like pretty like I enjoy like top 40s, like listen pop on the radio generally,
Which is
I'd be
valid.
okay with that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
people can talk shit about that, but screw you, man.
To be completely honest, I used to be one of those people.
Yeah.
I was so cynical,
Hey,
but
you
yeah.
know what? That's okay. You
No,
like,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no.
no.
I don't think so anymore.
Oh,
For me personally, I'm not here to judge others, but
that's right.
for me, it's so exclusive and like closed-minded to have that kind of feeling. So it's actually one of the reasons why I kind of formatted this podcast this way, is because like, you know what? Just because I might find a certain taste a certain way, or like in a negative fashion, it doesn't mean that there isn't a valid reason to enjoy those things. It's like different types of art. Like I like modern abstract art. Some people don't. Some people prefer Renaissance art. And you know what? That's great. And I think both are valid. And I think the right question to be asking is why? Like I said, that's the next
That's right.
step in the conversation. It should be why, not well, I like this, sort of thing. So yeah, if you live in the top 40, then cool, more power to you.
Yeah, and like I would say that like almost every genre does have like maybe most. There's probably some weird genres out there, but I would say most genres there's always something to offer. Like I don't know, for me sometimes I like a little bit of like random country music. I really like classic rock. Really like some classical music as well. I would say my knowledge of music is like breadth first, if that makes sense. Like I may not be super detailed in like certain aspects, but like I try to like glean like a little bit of like every genre kind of a thing.
Okay, yeah.
So in terms of like, so I had like whatever some albums I wanted to like share with you, Roberto, and like share with like other people on the internet. So one thing I was thinking about, one of my candidates was this is a K-pop rap artist called rap group called Epic High, which I really liked.
Nice.
I'm not gonna talk about them, but that was another one that I was thinking about.
Second place.
I don't know the second place. They're really good. You guys should listen to Epic High. It's pretty good.
Okay, yeah.
They have some English stuff. So it's pretty good.
Nice.
And another one I was thinking about was Childish Gambino.
Yeah.
I didn't have an particular album in mind, but I really liked his musical style. And
he's got some great singles out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I felt like I think a lot of people kind of already know like Childish Gambino. So and then I was also thinking about like, so earlier I said that my brother James was like a huge influencer in terms of like me going out and listening to other things out there. And this is actually one of the albums that like he had recommended to me, and I was like really like blown away by like how interesting it was. Nice. So once again, just as much as a Mascot Mule is a toast to you, James, Hospice is another toast to you as well. This was one of the albums that like really stuck with me that he recommended.
Well, James, well done. You're just such a positive influence.
Yeah, you're killing it, dude.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I guess I can. So yeah. I don't remember when he shared this with me. It was probably sometime either last year or sometime this year. I don't remember. But the concept of hospice is very loosely about a story of a guy who works in hospice care. So I guess for people that don't have Google, it's like when people are about to die, and basically what you need to do is to make their passing
as comfortable as possible.
Exactly, that's right. So it's about a story of a hospice worker who falls in love with one of his patients, and it's basically the journey of how it's sort of about like how the relationship like sort of goes on. It like has, because the person is dying, she is going through a lot, and as a result, the hospice worker basically is there to sort of try to help her through that.
One thing I do want to add though,
yes,
is like so far you're nailing it, but it's definitely worth noting that from the get-go you are told, and they let you know very clearly.
That's right.
Like yeah, sure, this might seem like a cute relationship at first, where it's a tragic love story. No, this is a dark relationship. From the get-go, you know that this patient is a very abusive
Yes.
and manipulative
Yes.
person.
Yes. Yeah. So that's exactly. That's that you caught on to that because
Yeah.
I think the other side note also is that it could also like I actually don't remember what the guy's name is. It's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, I'm blanking too.
Yeah. Sorry, Antlers, dude. We'll plug you later. But it was also said that like exactly what you said. It could also be sort of a an allegory for an abusive relationship. In that like I think what's interesting if you look through certain things, you see that the people in the relationship, like one of them is like how to say doing sort of like emotionally manipulating him in certain ways while like she's like suffering and things like that. I guess it's like it's an interesting case because like in one hand she does have. It's interesting that I'm saying these things, but I guess it's like in one instance like it's valid that she's suffering, right? And like she's about to die. And like in an allegory for like for when you remove the story concept, like maybe the person is going through some hard times. But at the same time, she's sort of bringing this other guy, like the singer or the subject, along with it as well, and it becomes like pretty like twisted and dark as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick side note, when you say allegory, I think you mean allegory.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Allegory.
Yeah, just in case anyone was confused, he's referring to allegory. Yeah, definitely this relationship is an allegory for abusive relationship because like on the outside it's easy to say like, oh, if someone is being abusive to you, just leave. And that's easy to say, but once you're like in one, you feel
it's hard to know, right?
Yeah, it's hard to know, and you feel compelled to stay. And even he says it in like not prologue, but I think in the second song, Kettering, he says something along the lines of like, I know I should go, but something is keeping me there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he could have gotten out of it as soon as he saw all these red flags, but he stayed and went deeper into it. And this album tells the story of like how that all goes down.
Yeah. I'm jumping over the place also, but I think what you says is right. There's definitely times like I would say, if the viewers have listened to the album, the mood of the songs definitely like fluctuates a lot. In the start, it's like very like how to say disorienting and like you're not sure what's going on. And then there's like songs where it gets like pretty sad and things like that. But then there's also, it's very interesting where there are some songs that are more upbeat and seem more optimistic. In particular, Bear.
Yep.
Yeah, because that one is interesting.
The melody on that one is very upbeat.
Yeah, it's almost like a lullaby kind of a thing. Interesting. Storyline of that song is, I think it's a little unclear like how it would happen, but the hospice, how to say, patient like had a kid
or is pregnant
basically.
Yeah.
And then because of that there's like a little bit of hope that they have that there's going to be something to look forward to in the future, like is the bear inside your stomach is the thing that she has, but it's a bear. It's pretty scary, man.
Yeah. I found it strange when I reached that song.
Yes.
And I was like, wait, so he had sex with her? Like,
yeah,
I'm like, it's just like,
don't think about it, man.
I'm not trying to be like, trying to point and go, ew. It was just more like, dude, you're putting yourself deeper in this situation and investing yourself more into something you should have left a long time ago. And so it's kind of one of those like, no turning back, we're going to keep going sort of thing. And to me, I was just like, how much darker is this album going to get? Because the album's going to be dark, even with Prologue. Prologue is an instrumental. There's no lyrics in that. But, like, what you hear, that droning sound and everything, it really sets the mood for the fact that this story takes place in a hospice.
Mm-hmm.
A hospice where you know how the story is going to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to end any other way. She's not there because she might survive.
Correct.
She's there because she's going to die.
Yeah.
And so a hospice is usually a place of hopelessness. And it's dark. And so I think prologue sets the scene with that. And of course, as you go through, it gets, even darker and worse, and you hit bear, and you're like, oh my God. Even though the melody is like a lullaby, kind of like something that sounds like for children, it's still, you're just like, oh my God, like how is this gonna end? Like is she just gonna die with a kid inside her? Like that's like, oh my God, this is terrifying. Like
Yeah.
where is this going?
Yeah, I think like what's best to not think of it. I think what you did was exactly right. It's like not to think of it as like, ooh, there's a kid, but think of it more as like, oh, they're investing a lot into something they're really hoping for.
Yeah.
Or like I think hope is like the scary thing that like does it exist is like really there, but like not really.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
well, one thing that you mentioned that was very interesting, was you said that like hospice is like a place of hopelessness. I don't know if it's because I'm how to say painting my own experience. Oh, okay, I haven't like been in hospice. I don't know, but like, but and maybe I'm like also sort of superimposing like my like what I think of hospice is. But I don't know. It's sort of what I think of also. A while back I read a book by Atul Gawande. It's called Being Mortal. I think I forget. I don't remember. But
Okay.
it's basically a guy who was talking about how geriatrics, which is like the doctors for like old people, is like it's really important and it's like an often glossed over field of medicine in the world. Because like you have a lot of people who are really good at like solving a sickness, but like
Yeah.
we're all people, right? Like in like all people are equal. Like we're all gonna die. Like it doesn't matter like if you were like a genius or like dumb or like we're a savior or like a murderer or something like that. We're all going to like die. And that like is like neither good nor bad. It's just like a fact. And
Yeah.
and it's like something that we all like go through. And because we all go through it, there needs to be like a discussion and like people who think about these sorts of things. And like everybody also like has someone like in their lives that is like struggling or like going through the process of like passing away. And there's like several ways of like addressing or like facing death. Like one way is to be like terrified of it, and to like try to like be like angry and like why did this happen to me kind of a thing. But like there's also like some part of like acceptance and like grace that you need to take. And just like realizing, like I'm about to die, like, there's only so much I can really do kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to do with this. Oh, I don't know, not sure how this ties in with the album, but I would say that, like death in the album may not necessarily mean it's like a bad thing, like a something terrible is about to happen kind of thing, but it's more like I'd say like, it's her next stage in life that she just needs to like move on to,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I like that because I definitely thought something similar, using different words. I thought like the point in the album where you reach her death, like it's the next phase of his life because he's no longer with her in this abusive relationship. So rather he's on his own. Of course, there's still the rest of the album to listen to, and you can tell he's clearly like not over it.
Yes.
He's still so much a part of that, like still stuck in that relationship, even though she's gone. And he still misses her. He still thinks about her. He still has, nightmares about her, and all these things.
Yeah, I think like what's also really interesting too is like I guess that goes with like any relationship that we go through, it's just like there's always like bad things about it and there's always good things. Or like, I guess in any stage in your life, right? Even if like you look back and it was like, oh, that was really shitty, right? But there's always like, some good things that you can still look back to, kind of a thing. Even though it's like may no longer be a part of your life anymore, but it's still some things like you still look back and it's like, oh, that was pretty chill.
Yeah.
That stuff was messed up, but that was pretty chill too.
Yeah, absolutely. And at every stage of your life, there are things you look back on. For me, it's always a lot of like I could have done that way better, or I shouldn't have done that. That was the wrong move. Of course, I didn't know that until I made the move and suffered the consequences of it.
Yeah, that's another way of thinking too. It's like, do you really know that was bad until like you tried it? Like, if you didn't do it, like, would you have regretted not doing it? Kind of a thing, you know? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's but I guess like how to say. I think like in anything in life, there's always going to be shit things that's going to happen. Like, you probably might be like the cause, or like, you know, had a part to play with it. But even if it's like a bad experience, there's always still something to like learn from it. And I think that's like pretty important. I don't know how this is with this album, but
No,
it's like
no, it's absolutely
a tangent of
it's absolutely relevant,
musings, man. Yeah.
because the same way you kind of think to yourself, like, would I know if that was a bad move unless I did it? We have to express a similar patience to the people in our lives. So, on the one hand, yeah, we may have experienced emotional abuse and manipulation while we were in relationships, but at the same time, you have to realize, like, maybe they were just trying something and it was the wrong move.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, also keep a clear head about it. Don't excuse everything they did, because there's definitely moments in my life where I was like, I look back on it now, I was like, okay, she was clearly like fucking with me. Not like in a funny way. Like, she clearly manipulating me for her own gain.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But, you know, what else you can do except, like, you know, learn from it, move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, for sure.
it's not an easy topic to talk about either, like emotional abuse, you know, domestic abuse sort of thing.
Yeah, like
It's
just to like be straight up, like, you know, for the people who like, you know, been in relationships with me, like, you know, don't worry, like, I don't, none of that has happened to me. I don't want, like, I think a lot of things that occurred in this album, I don't like identify with it like 100%, but I like it because of the tones and the story that it tells. So just like, you know, just you know, the people who are my exes, like, don't worry.
You don't.
It's not a reflection on you.
You don't have to qualify. It's fine. Right. It's fine.
Just enough for you guys. But yeah, I really do enjoy the, how to say, the journey that the singer takes you. Like his, how to say, his like hope for like something better, but like but then like it not happening, and then you see songs that look like happy on the surface, but deep down, if you look at the lyrics, it's like, oh, they're going through some things, and you gotta worry about that.
Definitely.
I think another example is like, if you look the song 2, that's another song that is also like,
2 is
happy.
Pretty good.
Yeah. But like, if you look at the lyrics, it's basically like how they're kind of isolated and they're like stuck with like each other, and then it's hard for them to like interact with like other people, and because they're like imperfect people, and they like can't, it's hard for them to deal with the problems, like they kind of self-implode, because they're not able to, how to say, they're like the only people they know is like themselves, and they're stuck with each other.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
They're both alone, but they're alone together.
Another like symptom of like, a symptom of a bad relationship, it's like codependency, I guess. Yeah,
toxic relationship, codependency, like that. Yep. Really, really bad.
But you definitely, that's definitely like the huge topic into.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, there is a little hope in the song "Wake." At the very end of it, like during her wake, first he's kind of talking to other people, kind of talking through his emotions, what he's feeling at the time. And at first, it's not all optimistic. Obviously, he's mourning and kind of confused on what he should feel.
Oh yeah, just as a context, "Wake" is a second to last song of the album, and this is at the point of the album where this is like right after the
Sylvia passes.
Sylvia passes away. Yeah, who's the person?
Yeah, Sylvia's the patient.
Yes.
And it first starts off like kind of like confused and still kind of dark, but at the end he kind of wraps up what the big takeaway, or not the big takeaway, but a takeaway of the album is. Like, if you learn anything from the album, it's this: learn to reach out, learn to talk to people through these things. Like, if you're having a hard time, reach out, talk to people, surround yourself with support.
That's right. Yeah.
But most importantly, don't let anyone convince you that you deserve it.
Yes.
This abuse. Like, you never do.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who you are, where you are in life, you don't deserve abuse. You deserve better and happiness. Everyone does. And you just got to find it for yourself. And a good way to do that is to reach out and get support from others.
Yeah, I think the other, yeah, on that line also, this entire album is almost sort of his way of like coming to terms with like what had happened. Cause like it's him like wrestling through his feelings, him talking about like what he's been thinking about, the things that like happened to him. And yeah, Wake is like basically the time where he's like sort of reflecting, like as soon as like he had gotten out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, I would say like for me, my most favorite song of the album is Epilogue, and the interesting thing about this song and like how I sort of experienced this song, I don't remember what the context was, but my brother showed me Epilogue first. I don't know why. It was either James or like I was dumb and like did pick the Epilogue first. I don't know why. But when I heard it for the first time, I thought like, oh, it's kind of cool. The melody is like pretty nice. The part where he sort of goes into falsetto and like sings that those I forget what the lines are on top of my head. It's like I'm screaming, I'm cursing, or something. I forget.
Isn't that you're screaming, you're cursing?
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're screaming and you're
Yeah.
cursing.
Because she's haunting him still.
Yeah, basically, it's like sort of that haunting melody of like what had happened.
Yeah.
Like my first reaction was like, oh, that's like sounds pretty nice. Like it sounds like he's going through some things. That's really hard. And then when I experienced the album again from the beginning, knowing his like full journey, and coming to the epilogue again and realizing, oh, that's like
The context.
That's
Yeah.
the context of like why like he's struggling. Then it's like, oh wow. Then it's like it's a more it's like a you should just listen. If anything, like that's like I feel like is a really I know for you, like when you listen to music, I know you're very lyric based, which is like the huge thing about rap and things like that. For me, like I'm also I think on top of that, I think melody speaks a lot as well.
Yeah.
On top of the lyrics. And I think just like the melody and the lyrics that are combined together, it's almost you feel like there's a lot of textures in his like emotions and his voice and his words studies.
Yeah.
It's like he's sad, but it's also like kind of happy that like it's like things were there. He's like still struggling. But he's also like celebrating, and it's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
I would say that's like my favorite song of the album, and
Epilogue?
it's like a epilogue, and it's a cool like reflection of like everything that has.
Yeah, it's a pretty good summary of what the whole album is. And sure, it's like the end of it, but like, all the emotions and all the things he experienced and that you experienced as a listener kind of all culminate into this one song.
Yeah.
One song I did really like that stood out to me was 13.
Yes.
Just like it's the only song on the album that really it gives you Sylvia's voice.
Yes.
And basically it's a short song, but the whole song she's just basically begging for death and wanting everything to be over. That's the whole song. Like, can't you dig me out?
Yeah.
Dig me out from under this house. Can't you do this? Why can't you do this? Do this. And it's like
just for the listeners, he just like recited that verbatim. That was
I got some of the lines right.
Lyrics, yeah. Lyrics speak to you, man. Yeah.
Yeah, the lyrics speak to me. But yeah, when I heard that, I was just like, damn, that's really heavy. And just to hear like find like Sylvia's side, she isn't just like this faceless antagonist. She's just this person who
she's a human too.
She's suffering a lot clearly from bone cancer.
Yeah.
Bone cancer at a hospice in New York.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this album is definitely a journey. This album also introduced me to the subgenre shoegaze, which I never heard of before. Shoegaze, for anyone's ever heard of it, think indie rock, but more droning sounds. Very atmospheric, and of course, Chris, you listened to the album. There's a lot of droning, atmospheric sounds in this album. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm usually not a fan of like that kind of stuff, but like I think with the context of the story and like what's going on, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely in certain cases, droning sounds work really, really well. I like it because it kind of reminds me of what it feels like to feel anxiety
Yes,
and like
absolutely.
panic.
Yes, yes.
Because like when you're going through like a panic attack, any input when you're in it is multiplied by 1,000.
Yes, yeah.
So like the sunlight feels like it's too much. The wind on your skin, it's too much. The weight of your clothes, that's way too much weight. The feeling in your hair, it's way too much feeling. And so when you get these droning sounds, it kind of reminds you of that slow build up of what you feel.
Yes.
Usually when I hear droning sounds, I usually hear more in the industrial and metal music I listen to, and they usually like amp up the droning where it's like super loud and nearly overwhelming in your headphones. And to me, that always feels like, oh my God, I feel like I'm about to have a panic attack because of this song.
Yes.
And I've learned to appreciate it, not because I like panic attacks. I hate panic attacks. I haven't had one since high school, though I have gotten close a couple times. I hate them, but the fact that the music can elicit such a strong response, that impresses me. That gets to me. It's just like, wow, like you did such a great job with your music. I wasn't panicking because it was loud. I was panicking because like you crafted the sound in such a specific way and it worked. And to me, I'm always impressed by that.
Oh, interesting.
And so shoegaze kind of gives me that feeling a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not sure if all shoegaze is as dark as
How do you
this
spell
album.
that? Shoegaze? What?
Shoe and gaze.
Like shoe that you put on your foot?
And gaze into the abyss.
Oh. What is this? Gaze makes sense, but like, how does shoe?
I have no idea. I don't know the etymology of the
Who
word.
came up with this? Oh man.
Yeah, the only reason
we gotta talk to this guy.
Yeah, right.
I need to understand.
The only reason I knew about shoegaze was because I was looking up the Genius lyrics to all these things, learning a lot about the album, and it just said like, oh yeah, the top genre this is shoegaze, and I'm like, what? What's shoegaze? So I click it, and it's like, oh, shoegaze is just a subgenre defined by a lot of droning sounds.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh. Yes, there definitely is a lot of that in this album. So yes, shoegaze is the apt subgenre for this album.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Interesting you mentioned that you felt like that it almost felt like you were going through anxiety. For me, I often compare it to like there are times I feel like I don't know if I've ever been like depressed. I guess I've been sad, but like I'll just say sad for not like trivializing depression.
Sure.
But like definitely like there are times where I'm feeling sad where I often feel like I'm staring at the black darkness of abyss where like things aren't going super well. Like often this like this I forget which song it was where it begins with a I don't know how to describe it. I think it's the Wake, in the beginning of Wake, where there's like people sort of like singing like a falsetto, like very distorted voice kind of a thing. Might have been Wake, I don't remember. But like I can imagine myself like, hearing that when like I'm feeling like sad or depressed or like, or things like that.
Oh, interesting. You hear a distorted like chorus.
It's like I don't actually like hear it, but like it reminds me of that feeling.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, I remember that. I know what you guys are talking about,
Oh shit. Nice.
So yeah, so when I hear the droning that goes on during these songs, that's sort of like what I think about. Like just those times of like where like I'm just like feeling pretty sad and it's like, oh man, gotta that's what it's like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's probably why this album like it really stuck to me. Oh, I think about James, like when he listens to this song, like is he like having those same feelings as well? I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'll talk to him.
Yeah, future discussion to have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, this album, definitely incredible. Something I would recommend. The story is fantastic. The music, the melodies, how the melodies is like make a comeback towards the end of the album.
Yeah, that's cool, right?
Yeah. I don't notice that very well. I'm not very good at noticing melodies, but I read notes, people writing notes about it.
Yeah.
And I would go back and be like, oh my god, it is the same melody.
Epilogue and Bear like have the same melodies.
Epilogue and Bear.
That blew my freaking mind.
Yeah.
I forget what else was there, but that was the one that I remembered.
Yeah. And when I learned that, it kind of terrified me because I was like, wait, what does that mean then?
Yeah, right?
Like, why would you do that?
Back at the good times and the false hope you were feeling in Bear?
Like I don't. What does that mean? What does that entail? And so like I'll have to definitely go back and listen to this album again at least a couple more times to truly understand what. God, I had his name. I think it's Peter.
Oh, I think you're right. I think it's Peter.
I just had it up.
Sorry, Peter.
Yeah.
But no,
yeah, it is Peter.
I listened to like I like prior to this to this podcast recording, like I listened to it like in the past, but like I didn't remember like everything about it.
Yeah.
And then like I was like, okay, I'm gonna share this with Roberto. I'm gonna listen to it again to see if there's any other new insights. And it's like, oh man, there's like a lot. There's like left in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I guess it's like a book kind of a thing, right? You know, when you read a book, like you learn.
You got to read it more than once. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's the same thing with this album. You gotta listen to it more than once, and then you learn a lot more from it.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Just under an hour. Highly recommend listening to it.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic story. Oh, a couple other notes I really like. The album cover itself. It's very simple. It's just two hands floating in this like a red space and kind of reaching out to each other. And of course, one of them has the hospital band bracelet.
I don't know what it's called.
The wristband from hospitals that you get.
Yeah.
But what I really like is that the one with the hospital band is on top.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of showing like that she has the power over him.
Oh, interesting.
Throughout the album, like she has, and he's reaching out to her. It's like, oh, you're.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't. Wow, that's good analysis.
No,
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah,
that is what I see because like he's kind of like reaching out, hoping, and then she's kind of like
a
kind of haphazardly just like reaching down, like I guess, sort of thing.
Oh man, that's yeah, I hadn't thought about that way.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's definitely a great album, and thank you so much for recommending it. It was really cool.
And thank you, James, for recommending it to me as well.
Thank you, James.
You've been like a figurative and literal bro.
Figurative and literal.
That's right.
Literal. But yeah, absolutely. All right. And one last note about the album. I like that it, even though there is the big obvious allegory of what this relationship is supposed to mean, it's like, yeah, it's about a hospice worker and the patient, but it's also like it's meant to be like a reflection, analogy of like abusive relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that the album lyrically, it's pretty straightforward. Like once you read the lyrics once of like that first song of it was Kitterman, like
yes,
you know exactly what this whole album is about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something you have to like listen back over and over to get like just the basic meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty straightforward, and many of these songs were like 5 to 6 minutes long, yet had like less than 300 words total.
Mm-hmm.
Not unique words, just words in total. And so obviously this means that Peter has to convey what he means pretty directly, because if he uses too many metaphors with just such few words, it'd be too convoluted, too up in the air. I also read a lot of notes that this album may or may not reflect the relationship that he had just gotten out of.
Yes, yeah, that's a little unclear.
Yeah, he won't confirm it.
Yeah.
Or deny it.
Yeah.
So it makes me say yes.
Yeah, I feel like it too.
Yeah, obviously some stuff might be blown up a little more for the sake of art.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, to me, definitely be like, okay, so he just went through this, something similar,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's kind of speaking his truth through this album. This is also the first album that he made with an actual band. His previous projects he had made solo, and this album actually got him signed to a record.
Oh, okay.
Company,
I actually don't know the story of this guy. Sorry, Peter. I really don't know anything about you.
No, I did some reading because I know like nothing about indie rock or indie pop or indie anything.
I actually don't know jack about it either.
Yeah, so like I kind of told myself, okay, I'm gonna have to do some reading.
Yeah,
which is fine. So I was listening to it while the droning was going on. I'm like reading these things. Like once I saw like the lyrics were done for the song and there was like 2 minutes left, I'm like, okay, great, I can do some research in those 2 minutes.
Yep.
And so I learned a lot. So Peter, multi-instrumentalist, vocals, guitar, keyboard, making these albums on his own, which is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's I respect a lot.
He
of that,
he reminds me of, I forget the guy's name, but Tame Impala. Tame Impala is one dude.
Okay.
But of course, when he performs, he needs a backing band.
Yeah.
And so he kind of has a band, and so there's that meme. People are like, "Wait, is Tame Impala one dude or a band?" And then they'll always get like mixed answers, and like I still don't know, but it's one dude.
But that's your one dude. Okay.
It's one dude.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Very smart dude.
What's this kind of music?
Tame Impala?
Yeah.
It's like indie pop.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
But yeah, really good stuff.
Shoegaze? Was that what it's called?
Shoegaze. I haven't listened to a lot of his music.
He doesn't look at shoes.
He doesn't stare at shoes.
He doesn't have shoes.
It might have some hints of it, but the music I've heard, the singles I've heard, much more relaxed, happy, kind of a party sort of thing.
Okay, yeah.
Which, yeah, still very good.
Yeah, indie pop's very, like, how to say, varied, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a big world out there. I definitely have not scratched the surface of that at all.
Neither have I,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons I'm doing the podcast,
Hey,
so I
yeah,
can
you
learn a
know-
little more about everything.
And you know what's up, yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's move on to the next album.
Let's do it, yeah.
So next album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by singer, rapper, songwriter, producer. He is an everyman, Kanye West. This album came out 2006. I should know this.
Sounds right.
It sounds right. Let's see what it says on yours.
Yeah, I got my.
I think it says 2010.
Yeah, you're right. 2010. Sorry.
2010.
Did you just look at my phone?
Yeah, I looked at your
Wow, dang, your eyesight's great.
Yeah, I've been told I have good eyesight. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's true.
It's true, man. You just
Thank
proved
you.
it.
So, anyways, yeah, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, easily Kanye's most famous, popular album for many reasons. The first and foremost being the most singles out of an album that everyone knows.
Yeah, like
Power,
yeah.
All the Lights.
When you showed me this album, I was like, oh, there's some singles I actually like, know. Okay, all right.
Yep.
As context, like for me, I talked to Roberto a lot about Kanye, and I know he's a huge fan of Kanye. It's funny, my introduction to Kanye, I only knew about him through a South Park episode.
Oh, yeah, the
about
fish
him-
sticks.
About
Yeah.
fish sticks, that's right, yeah. So my only knowledge of him is a guy who's kind of how to say has an ego.
Egotistical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's part of part of the role that he plays. And I also know that whole Taylor controversy shenanigans.
Yep.
But yeah, but there is something undeniable that his music is actually pretty very empowering. How to say? I guess empowering. Yeah. It's
Yeah, empowering.
it's very empowering.
Definitely. And you mentioned some good things that actually are very relevant to this album. You mentioned the South Park thing. Did you hear the line
Which was mentioned in Power. Yeah.
in Gorgeous?
Oh, sorry, Gorgeous. Yes, yes.
Yeah, which is the second song on the
That's
album.
right,
Yeah, he took a South Park writer with the fish sticks.
That's right.
Yeah, it was so funny. And you mentioned the Taylor Swift incident, and which is really interesting because that album was released after that.
Mhm.
So he dropped 808s, and he was obviously very depressed at the time because he had lost his mother, lost the engagement to a girl he had been seeing almost his entire adult life, and so he was just on a losing streak. He dropped this album, still depressed, and when he showed up to the VMAs, which where this incident occurred, he showed up with a bottle of Hennessy in one hand, Amber Rose on the other. Amber Rose is this very popular woman among rappers. I'll say that.
Okay.
Is
she a rapper?
No,
Oh,
she's
what's
just a
she
model.
doing? Oh, she's a model. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very attractive individual.
Okay.
And yeah, he showed up completely wasted. And there's a very infamous picture of him walking into it, and he looks like he's got a lot of swag on, but a very kind of a dark energy about him as well.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of power, but also kind of dark. And so it's ugh. And then of course the incident occurred, and nobody liked him after that.
Yeah.
I didn't like him.
Yeah,
I
no,
was
dude.
I was not a fan of him. I'm like, oh, leave the poor girl alone. She's new.
Yeah.
Let her have her moment, Kanye.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just can't believe he would do that.
Yeah.
And so I kind of didn't like him for a long time. And then he disappears for I forget how long, but a significant amount of time. Not that he disappeared into his home and never went outside, but he literally went to Europe and was there for a long time. And people thought he was just running away from all these problems that he had made for himself. Turns out, no, he was working on something. He was working on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which would be known as his most popular and best album that he's made. It's not my favorite album of his, but I definitely see why people see it as his best album. I think it might be his best album as well. There's a lot of things he does right in this album, and it's incredible that he's able to make that bounce back.
Did he call himself Yeezus during this?
Nope, that was the next album.
Okay.
Which is called Yeezus,
Yes.
and that one is actually
Oh,
my
that was
favorite.
Okay.
And that's my favorite Kanye album.
Oh, okay.
I will talk about why in a different episode.
Yes.
But
tuned.
I have a very strong feelings about that album. But yeah, no, this album is incredible. He came back, dropped it, and it blew up. Everyone loved Power. Everyone loved All of the Lights. What else is there? Runaway.
Yeah.
I love Runaway.
Oh yeah,
we-
actually, the funny thing about Runaway is,
Yeah.
I thought it was a song that basically said, like screw you to all the people who are like assholes and stuff like that. But in
No.
reality, it's not.
Nope.
Like I heard, like you played the song a lot in like parties and a lot. It's like, oh, that's cool. Like it's an interesting song. Like telling the people who wronged us and like screw, fuck you, But then, like, looking at lyrics is actually more about, like, he's dealing with his own shit, and he's, like, kind of running away from his own problems, and, like...
Well, he's telling
right?
the girl in his life to run away from him because he knows he's a toxic individual.
Yeah.
And that he will only end up hurting and cheating and doing all these bad things. And so he's telling her, like, you need to run away. We'll talk more about that in a moment.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to, like...
Yeah.
Anyways,
But yeah, no worries. So...
the important singles, or
Yeah.
big name singles.
Yeah, the big singles that came out, and everyone loved it. And then he became a household name again after that.
Mhm.
And it seemed like we had moved on from it.
Yeah, I saw... I know Power from watching the Saints Row 3
Oh, yeah.
commercial, and then, like, the parachute scene.
Yeah, in the game. Yeah, Saints Row the Third.
Which my brother also played, and, like, I thought was cool, so...
Oh,
Look at
nice.
You, James. Anyways.
Damn, James is just killing it in
He's
this
killing it,
podcast.
yeah.
He's like my best guest.
Yeah, no, I think eventually, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I do remember that when Saints Row the Third is like a GTA clone, I guess.
Yes.
But it's far more silly. It
Yes.
does not take itself seriously in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't strive to be super realistic, but it plays like GTA.
Yes.
There's a dubstep gun, there's aliens, silly gang wars or whatever.
It's a cat-shaped truck that you use a catapult or something like that.
Something like that,
I
yeah.
forget.
But there was one really cool scene where you need to attack a penthouse overrun by what was it, Russians or the enemy gang,
I
something
don't
like that.
remember, dude.
I don't know.
Something
The enemy.
Yeah.
And so instead of like storming the penthouse, go down the first floor, take an elevator up, or sneak in or whatever, you jump out of a helicopter and start diving down. And as the scene starts, where you can actually play, Power by Kanye West starts playing. You hear that clap, like, and that voice, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, 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 living in that, yeah. And of course he starts doing his thing.
That's such a great line.
Yeah, and just like the great opening, and you're diving in, and then once you reach the pool, the penthouse, guns are drawn, everyone is shooting now, and that song is still playing as you're like clearing out the penthouse of enemies, and it's such a powerful, empowering song.
That's exactly, yeah. I think that's like, I'd say one of Kanye's like really, how to say, his core competency is that he's like knows how to like music that like pumps you up, and like like fuck you everybody, like I'm the shit, like I got this kind of thing.
Yeah,
which is like pretty cool.
Absolutely.
But there's also like the other side of him too that like I guess the most famous ones are the ones where like it's those like pumpy, like get your shit together, like fuck you guys song. But he actually has like a lot more vulnerable songs in that album too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And let's discuss them. So the album opens up with the track Dark Fantasy and has a fantastic intro by Nicki Minaj. Yeah. She adopts a weird like almost British accent for some reason, but I mean, I think the command of her voice and like what she was saying was really good.
Was Nicki Minaj famous during this time?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, Nicki Minaj has been around for a long time, but then she didn't make her transition into like pop until like early 2010s.
Starship Song.
Yeah, like early 2010s, late 2000s.
Yeah.
But she had been around for like many years before that, and she was just like a normal female rapper.
Oh, okay.
But then she realized like, oh, that image isn't really working out for me.
Yeah.
And she's like, what if I went full pop? And it turns out that was the answer.
Yeah.
And like it worked out really well for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, that intro. What did you think of that intro? Nicki's intro.
I think for me, what stuck out more was like what happened afterwards was like the So I asked about the whole Yeezus thing was because I think that's I don't know when Kanye started using like religious like thing how to say religious image or how to say religious influences in his music
Since day one.
Since day one. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, interesting.
He's always been a Christian in all of his albums.
But like I think what's interesting is that there was one line that I forget where it was. I don't think it was the first song. But he basically, how to say, compared almost hip hop, sort of like.
Oh, is hip hop just a euphemism for a new religion?
I think that's the one. Yeah, that's the sign.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah. So
Don't skip ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Keep skipping ahead, you silly Billy.
Man, yeah.
I just asked you what you thought of the intro. Literally the first 15 seconds of the song.
I got distracted because like I think for me what stuck to me most was like the chorus, like the choral section that occurred after the introduction.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
I kind of like it because I'll talk about the intro.
So I missed out on the beginning. So well, I'm curious. What was the thing that she was like talking about?
Yeah, we'll talk about it right now. So
Let's do it since we're already here.
basically she's just saying, I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit, but she says, "You might have peaked the scene. You haven't. The real one's far too mean. The watered one down, the one you know, was made up centuries ago, and made it sound all whack and corny. Yes, it's blasted, awful boring, sick addiction, twisted fiction. But gather round, children, sit and listen." Oh my God, actually, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, hey, good job, man.
I didn't think I'd get the whole thing.
You're really, yeah.
But basically, what she's saying is like, to me, what it sounds like she's saying is like, you may think you know where this album is going because of what your preconceived notions of Kanye are, but that's all made up. Like, that's just an image that was sold to you that you made up in your head because other people told you to have that image in your head. It's not real. But if you want to hear the real one, gather round, children, zip it, listen. I like that in the beginning. It's like kind of diplomatic. Like, okay, yeah, you've heard some things, but let's listen to what he has to say. But at the end, he's just like, gather round, children, zip it, listen. She's like, shut up, you don't know, just listen.
Yeah.
Shut up and enjoy the greatness, which is a Kanye quote. He tweeted that once. Just shut the fuck up and enjoy the greatness.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
I'm jumping ahead also, but like
Yeah.
a lot of the songs in this album is basically him had to say like criticizing a lot of people that like talk shit about him.
Yeah.
And like saying like, hey, you don't really truly know who I am, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it seems like that's like I guess that's his ongoing like battle right now. Even right now, like
No, he's been fighting that fight since day one.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and then of course after that intro, that chorus starts up and it's really, really nice. Can we get much higher? And like, what a great intro to
Yeah,
that.
it's great.
It's funny, the first time I listened to it, I never thought to myself like, oh, he means drugs. Because it doesn't feel like that. The melody of the music. No, he's not.
Okay.
That's the thing, because like, because it wasn't until recently that I realized like, oh my God, the literal translation or like a literal interpretation, I should say, could just mean like someone could be like, oh, he's talking about drugs, but he's not. Like, and at no point. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to say godhood, but maybe godhood. He does turn into Jesus afterwards.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I like is like even though his words can easily be misinterpreted like that, but you don't feel that if you actually listen to the music. It's not what it's about. It's not that shallow. It's not superficial. No. There's a lot going on in that album. And as I mentioned before, to you off the camera or off mic, that this album was one of the few albums that I listened to that actually tells like a full and complete story to me. In a similar way that Hospice does.
Yes.
Hospice is more like direct, like this is exactly what's going on.
Yes.
Kanye employs metaphor after metaphor and like inceptions of metaphors and within metaphors to tell a story. So it's a little convoluted, it's a little difficult to follow. But then after listening to it for quite a few times, I started realizing there's like connections being made until eventually I realized like, oh my God, I finally formed this whole thing.
Yeah.
So the story in my head basically tells the story of this angel-like character. I don't want to say like the Christian heaven angel, but like a demigod angel kind of character, who's Kanye. Well, I don't want to say is Kanye, but like is voiced by Kanye. And for some reason, you're not told why yet, the angels have been training him to go back to Earth and to be there and to fix a problem.
Oh, okay.
Which is why, even though you have this,
I did not get that when I was first hearing. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, no, because like you hear this beautiful chorus, very angelic, very inspiring, and then you have Kanye's lyrics, which are kind of like superficial, kind of dumb. Mercy, mercy me, that Murcielago. And kind of like, he's just talking about cars and money. And like, why is he talking so much about it if he's like in this heaven-like atmosphere? And it's because he's like kind of living his training, kind of like, okay, this is who I have to be in order to survive on Earth so I can fix the things that I need to fix. And so he's kind of talking about all these things. And I won't get into it too much, but it kind of goes through it thoroughly. A lot of scenes are happening. He's like consulting some people, some like higher ups. And at one point, I do imagine that they do cut the wings off of him because he has to be human. Human doesn't have wings, so they have to remove his wings forcefully. And so he's suffering a lot to do this mission that he was trained to do. And towards the end of the song, he finally jumps down to Earth. But one thing you'll notice about the song is like, it finishes, right? But then for some reason it starts up again.
Yes.
It quiets down and it just jumps, and you get like 4 to 8 more bars just of that beautiful chorus, obviously. Can we get much higher?
Yeah.
And to me, what that tells me is like, sure, we followed him as he made his transition to Earth, but then it kind of pans back to this heaven-like place. And what I imagine during that last part is that we see this like, I'm not sure if it's a tablet or an obelisk or something, but basically it's just like these carvings, like ancient carvings, that kind of tell you what's going to happen throughout this whole story. Like the angels already know what's going to happen. Kanye doesn't, but the angels do. And so it's like a quick review, and it shows them making it to Earth. Well, I don't want to spoil the rest of the album, but it kind of tells you everything. But one thing it shows at the end is like either a complete failure or his death. I haven't decided what yet, but it's partly covered up, so you don't see why it happens or how it happens. But you do see like this chosen one that was rising and had this beautiful imagery throughout the whole obelisk is suddenly dead. And so I was like, okay, let's follow the story, see what happens. And so then we jump into Gorgeous.
Wow, I did not catch. Okay, I did not catch the.
The thing is, I don't think this is the right interpretation. This is just my personal interpretation. The story that came into my head.
Interesting.
I have not read this anywhere. This is just my interpretation.
Oh, I didn't really. Oh. Okay.
But yeah, no, we jump to the next song, Gorgeous. And Gorgeous is a fantastic song.
It's like, it's not, the things that he describes are like not gorgeous at all. It's like talking a lot about how to say a lot of like the racist like things that occur, and like a lot of, and like the people who are singing are like struggling with a lot of things in that. I really like this. Actually, yeah, all these songs, they have like, once again, like melodies speak to me a lot, and like I think they're all like really good for this one.
The distorted guitar on this one.
Yes.
Do 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 do. Anyways, but yeah, to me, what that is like it jumps to like ahead a certain amount of time, maybe a couple years later. Kanye has assimilated into Earth. He has made his observations and realized like the things he has to fix. And one of the things he has to fix, he talks about them. He said all the things, all the racial problems in America. And there's a lot, and he talks about it in quite detail. And what's really cool about the song is a lot of people like to say like, sure, Kanye's a famous hip hop artist, but he's not the best rapper. And granted, I don't think Kanye is the best rapper in the world, but a lot of people like to dismiss him because they're like, oh, he just does like pop rap, and like, with Heartless, that was easy for him to rap, or that recent song, like, I Love It, like that's so easy, or what's that other song called? The one from his most recent album. You know what? I can't remember off the top of my head. But his recent singles, like, they're not very difficult to rap. Like, you can just pick up a piece of paper and have no problem with it. There isn't too many nuances with flow in these singles. However, with Gorgeous, he's like, nah, not only can I write really good rap, but I can rap really well.
Yeah.
And so the first bar is him saying, penitentiary chances, the devil dances, and eventually answers to the call of autumn. And so it's like, holy shit. Like Kanye wrote that and he rapped that. That's him? Whoa, that's a lot. Yeah. And he just keeps going. He has 3 2 or 3 verses in that song where they're all chocked full of like imagery like that.
Yes, yeah.
So clever.
Yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with his like with the rapping that he was doing.
Yeah, it was really well
I
done.
always appreciate like a good like rap. It's non-trivial things you gotta do to
Yeah,
like make it work.
yeah, absolutely. He had this really clever line. He's like, uh, "Get caught with 30 Rock, and the
Oh
cop
yes.
look like Alec Baldwin."
Yeah.
Yeah. And face it, Jerome get more time than Brandon. And I was
I
like,
didn't
oh,
understand that reference actually. What was that like a what was that referencing of actually?
Jerome get more time than Brandon.
Yeah.
Jerome is usually a name more associated with African Americans,
Okay.
and Brandon is usually a name more
Oh,
associated
oh.
with Caucasians.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a specific Jerome that like
No.
you know. Okay.
Or there might be, not to my understanding.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
To me, it was just like black people get more time than
Yeah.
white people. I mean, now we're knowing today, black people get killed more often than white people.
Yes,
But
yeah.
yeah, so Kanye is speaking on this very detailed. But another note in terms of story, that hook that Kid Cudi does, uh, um, I will never ever let you live this down, down, down,
Oh yes, yeah.
and no more chances and all that stuff. It speaks to like how this character, he's made these observations, great, but he's running out of time to fix it. And he feels all this pressure. He's like, oh my God, this problem is way bigger than I had thought it would be, and I'm not sure if I can handle it. And so yeah, he's kind of like giving like a status report, like kind of all his findings, but also realizing I am in over my head.
Oh,
I don't know how I'm gonna fix this.
Yeah, I definitely felt like there was a sense of like desperateness or like
Desperation.
yeah, desperation and what's I guess all this is happening, like what can I do? And it's sort of like sort of feels helpless. He feels helpless.
Yeah.
Like, in sort of all of this.
Yeah, helpless in fixing it, and kind of like he feels optimistic in like, yeah, I'm facing these racial discrimination as well,
Yeah.
but like I can still do it. He says I forgot. He says, but we stay winning. This week has been a bad massage. I need a happy ending. So kind of like, yeah, the discrimination itself is difficult, but I can get through it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the whole solving and fixing this problem that he was sent to do that's going to be a lot for him.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that song ends with that uneasy feeling. Then we get to Power. And Power, of course, is very like strong and uplifting. And what I interpret that as in terms of the next chapter of the story is either something happened in terms of like he made a brash decision. I forgot to mention, before he made it to Earth, even though they clipped his wings, like he's still like a demigod. And so they told him like, obviously you cannot do demigod stuff on Earth. Like they have to believe that you're human so you can assimilate. And so when I get to Power, what I imagine is he did something like a brash decision using his power. And now he is being chased by like cops, FBI, military. And so sure, this song is kind of uplifting. But in the opening, you hear like alarms blaring, like a doomsday alarm blaring, because they're like, holy shit, there's this like weird demigod. Maybe it's the devil. He's on Earth, and he just killed like some world leaders who were in charge of all this corruption. And now we have to kill him, put him down. And so he's just like running, still kind of cocky because he realizes, holy shit, that was really easy to do because I have this power. And he realizes, oh shit, I have this power, and this is dangerous. And so no one man should have all the power. He gets into it.
That song is like, I guess that's why it's so huge, or like why even non-Kanye fans know it. It's like people like exactly what Saints Row 3 is trying to evoke, is that you're just one guy who can like do everything.
Exactly.
And, like you're just invincible being, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of people like that. I guess a lot of people aspire that feeling, and as a result, that's why it's one of the more popular like Kanye songs that a lot of mainstream people know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps going for a while. I won't get into the details, but towards the end of the song, everybody knows this song.
That's right.
It's a great song. But towards the end of the song, I imagine he ends up like on top of a skyscraper, and the point where he says, you got the power to let power go. Kind of a criticism to society as a whole. Like, to those in power, can you let that power go for the sake of mankind?
Mm-hmm.
But also to himself, can I let this power go? And to me, like, he jumps off this building and he's falling. It's a huge skyscraper. The news is like watching him closely, following him as he descends down. And now you hear that like keyboard like thing. And the camera kind of follows, but then gets obscured by something. And you're like, wait, did he hit the ground? Or what's going on? And that last like bit, 21st century schizoid man, brown. It shows him rising up with an aura of energy around him and explodes around him and basically just all holds off. He's like, fuck it. I'm just going to use my power to create my own perfect society. And that's the point he decided, like, fuck all this.
Interesting.
Like,
Next one that comes after is all the lights.
Yes,
right?
the interlude.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
never heard that before. It's
yeah.
actually really good.
the interlude,
It's pretty good.
it's so heartbreaking.
That hashtag cello, man.
Yeah, it really well done. So yeah, he kind of says, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to pretend I don't have this power. I have this power. I'm going to create a more perfect world with my power. And so he makes that decision. But what I imagine what the interlude is, I imagine there's like a 20-second spacing between the song and the interlude, where as he finally descends back onto Earth, he ends up right outside an alley, and he recognizes the alley, and he sees this like really old blood stain on the floor, and he realizes why he remembers it. And the interlude starts, and the interlude, it's a flashback. It shows him dead on the floor in the alley, riddled with bullet holes. And then it starts off really zoomed in on his eye, so you can see reflection off his eye, and you see all these flashing lights, the cop car lights, and all that. And it kind of pans out slowly. It shows the image of the alley, where he is, all the blood, showing that he's clearly dead. And then it shows, like, I haven't decided on this detail yet, but kind of shows like a daughter being ripped out of his arms. And so this sad cello is playing, and it's kind of showing who he was as a human on Earth before he ascended to this heaven-like place and became like this demigod, and now he's back at this place. And then the actual song, all of the lights actually plays.
Sorry, in this
Yes,
like story that you've painted, did this occur like before this album even started?
Yes,
Oh, so like okay.
it's a flashback. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then
Wow, that's a really compelling story that you. This is like in your own headspace that you've constructed. Shit. Okay,
Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
yeah, it's a lot. But then I imagine the actual song itself, all the lights, to be a flashback before that moment where he's dead in the alley, of like how he got there in the first place. And I think the lyrics do a pretty good job explaining the story. He just says like, in the beginning, I slapped my girl. She called the feds. I spent that time and I spent that bread. And then he kind of comes back to her, begging her like that our daughter, she needs a father. You can't let her grow up in that ghetto university. Like she can't grow up with a single parent in the ghetto because, odds are she's not going to do so well. And also at the same time, he realizes this woman that he has a child with is not a good person. She's not going to be a good mother. She's going to do all these, not bad things to the child, but she's going to be a neglectful mother. And as a result, the child will not be raised properly. And I'm kind of like skimming through this really fast. And so he makes a brash decision because they met in public. He says in the lyrics, we met at Borders. So they're at Borders before it closed down. And so they're sitting there. And then in my head, she like went off to use the restroom real quick or something. And Kanye's just like, she's not listening to me. She won't let me back into my own daughter's life. And she needs a daddy. And he's like, fuck it. And it shows where this nature of brass decisions of this character comes from. So instead of like trying to go through the legal system, which is already rigged against him, he decides, fuck it, I'm just going to take my daughter. I'll give her a way better life than her mother could ever give. Problem is, that's hella illegal. You can't just take a child. So he grabs her, puts her in a sports car, and he just starts driving. And then all the lights, cop lights, helicopter lights, search lights, there's a huge chase going on, trying to capture or catch him and save the daughter, even though she is doomed to be raised by this neglectful mother. And so the chase goes on for a while, and the song ends with a crash. He crashes a little bit. They're both fine. Well, fine. And he starts running into the closest alley he can reach, but he realizes too late that it's fenced off and he can't climb it because he's injured. And so the cops surround him, and he's like, no, I have to save my daughter. I can't let her be doomed. And so as he's like trying to like reach for like check what he has, like what can save me right now, the cops think he's reaching for a gun, and they put him down, fill him with bullets, and it shows him slumping down to the exact scene we saw during the interlude. And so we see all this. The song ends, and now present day Kanye, this demigod who just decided that fuck it, is back in this alley, reliving these haunting memories, and decides, you know what? Not only fuck it, I'm gonna show up and do my thing, but fuck everyone involved. I'm gonna run this way better. I'm gonna just purge everything that has power, that how the society works. I'm gonna do it my way. And so the next song, Monster.
Hold up, sorry. I want to go back a sec.
Sure.
So, it sounds like after this whole incident, he became a demigod, right? What do you think was, like, the reason why, like, he was, like, why did he ascend to, like, demigod status?
Sure.
Because, like, I don't know, it sounds like he hasn't really done, unless there was something he did that
Yeah,
warranted
no,
ascension, right?
what I was thinking, one of two things. There's an easy answer and there's a cheesy answer. The easy answer is just like, once we all go to this heaven in this universe,
Right.
we all achieve all this power. But none of us ever go back to Earth because one, we just don't.
Yes.
And two, there's no reason to.
Yeah.
Like, you're done in Earth. Now enjoy yourself in this heaven place. Or second, he's just the chosen one.
Oh, okay.
The prophecy is like, okay, we need someone to go back and fix those things. And so, like, when he made it to heaven, they're like, he's the one. Like, he has this savior attitude of the reckless use of power, and he's willing to do these extra things. So let's do him.
Interesting.
I like to think that when you make it to this heaven place in this universe, your memory is a little hazy. Like, it kind of gets erased a little bit, so you don't remember all the pain and anger that you had as a human. So when you're in heaven, you're like happy to be there. You're satisfied. You have no need to go back or anything. But then, of course, he visited the place he died, had those flashbacks, and got angry. And this is the beginning of the end. And so the next song is Monster. And what I imagine
that one I struggled. First of all, I think the rapping was done super well. Nicki Minaj did a really good job. Like, Jay-Z was there too in this one. Right?
Jay-Z was there. That is a nice way to putting it.
Yeah.
He was there.
He was there. He was a monster.
Yeah, no, it's a great song. Yeah.
I didn't understand, like, what was they were... Because, like, it was basically, like, painting themselves as, like, people who, like, how to say, do things that are, like, that are bad, but almost, like, they almost talk about it in, like, an empowering way kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
so...
I can do this shit kind of thing.
Yeah, basically, when Kanye was writing the song, he told his the featured artist, the guests, like, the idea of the song is, how do you describe an abuse of power and wealth through the imagery of monsters?
Oh, then that explains it. Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and they do it, and they do it so well.
That's exactly what they're talking about then.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's exactly what it is. The lyrics, they come off as like superficial and like he's just talking about money and women and power and all that. And Nicki just talking about her clothes, her hair, men, and her other bitches and whatnot. And Jay-Z is there. I'll explain why I keep saying that in a moment. But of course,
okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, so Kanye has his verse, and I'm talking about the music right now, not so much the story.
Sure.
But like his verse is pretty well done. Like, he delivers it really well. There's clever wordplay in it. But the most famous part of the song to me is he says, You ever have sex with a pharaoh?
yes, I
I'll
remember
put
that,
that
yeah.
pussy in a sarcophagus.
Yes, yes.
Then she claimed that I bruised her esophagus. Head of the class,
Yes,
she
oh,
just want
yeah.
to swallow shit.
I
I'm
remember
just
that.
like,
That was pretty good wordplay.
yeah, good wordplay, but
Yeah.
it's like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say exactly? Sex, yes, but what? So the first time I heard that, I kind of chuckled. I was like, what are you talking about,
So
Kanye?
that was my reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there something?
No.
Okay.
It's just meant
I
to be
feel
very
like-
boasty.
I know that's his style where like he had to say exaggerates.
That's what
stuff,
sells
like-
more. Yeah.
I know exactly. Like, oh Kanye, you're just saying that because you know shit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he knows it sells more. That's why he does that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
so
it's good wordplay. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a man of puns, so I appreciate that.
yeah, he does well on that. And there's Jay-Z's verse. I don't want to get too much into this, but
I know you. It sounded like you. You mentioned it like in your 0th episode, right? Doesn't have to be this episode. We can. We can
no, it's okay. I just want to do a quick summary. It's just like it's among Kanye fans, it's known as a joke.
Yeah.
Everyone jokes about that verse because of how I don't want to say bad, but it's pretty bad. And the weird thing is, someone once defended it saying like, no, go back and actually read the verse, read the lyrics, and then tell me it's bad. And I'm like, that's not going to be hard to do. So I went back, read the lyrics, and at first I was like, yeah, see, it's so terrible. But then I kept reading it. I'm like, oh, actually, no, this is actually a pretty good verse. And so I'm like, then why do I hate it? And why do people make fun of it so much? Like, I had this opinion before I realized, thousands of other people had the same opinion.
Wait, which line are you talking about?
Verse, Jay-Z's verse?
Yeah. Oh, you're saying the whole section.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
curious, what didn't you like or what did people generally not like about it?
Yeah. So the problem is the start, how he starts it. He just lists off a bunch of monsters.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was kind of lame.
And then he just says, I'm a motherfucking monster. What? What are you trying to say? That doesn't make any sense. And it kind of confuses you. It's like you just listed monsters and then said you were a monster. You didn't say I am also on this list of monsters or I am the greatest monster of them all. He just said, here are some monsters. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm a monster. Okay. And so it feels like a joke. It felt like last minute he just scribbled some stuff on paper and was like, oh yeah, I forgot I have to write this verse today. And the weird thing is, it's only the first 2 lines that feel that way. The rest of the
Yes, yeah.
the verse,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, was pretty good.
Yeah.
But they're tainted so much by those first 2 lines, and it's so sad because the rest of the writing is pretty good.
Yeah.
But those first 2 lines, like, you're too busy laughing and making fun of it. By the time he's done with his verse, you're just like, wow, what a garbage verse, and you move on. So,
Interesting.
all
Okay.
due respect, I mean, it's still a fine verse. It's a funny joke as well.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
But anyways, let's just move on to Nicki's verse. Nicki's verse is phenomenal. It's my favorite
Yeah,
verse in the song.
I think
She kills it.
I generally don't like Nicki Minaj's rapping, but I
Same.
thought this yeah,
Yeah.
but this one I thought was like, oh, like I knew that's like her style of like being weird or I don't know what she does. She does a weird thing with her voice. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's Nicki Minaj. Totally.
Yep.
And like it was like, oh, it's pretty good.
That bitch that came from Sri Lanka. Yeah, I'm in the Tonka color of Willy Wonka. You can be the king, but watch the queen conquer. Okay, first things first, I'll eat your brain. Okay, so I don't want to sing too much. I don't want to get copyright strike.
You're
But
pretty good, man.
yeah, that flow, the enunciation, how she kills it, and it's all thematically like really tight. Like it works really well.
I also really liked how she did like a double persona kind of a thing. I remember reading somewhere that she does that voice as like her persona kind of a thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she does, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so yeah, she kills it. Like I cannot sing enough praises about her verse.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to an interview, she had trouble writing a verse for this feature, and Kanye just told her like write something that actually means something to you. Don't just write something just for the sake of writing something. Like this is my like I'm adding stuff to it.
Yeah.
It's like don't just be like, oh, I'm on this Kanye feature. I can just write whatever because it's still gonna get millions of listens, and I'm still gonna get paid millions of dollars or thousands of dollars, 50,000.
So money.
Yeah, and he's like, no, actually write something that means something to you, and so you can tell like the writing in that verse is well done, and she kills it. It's still very Nicki Minaj,
Yes.
but like the best version of Nicki Minaj.
Yeah.
And it's a great person to listen to. It's really good.
Yeah. I asked if like this was when she was like famous and stuff.
Yeah.
But if it was like before or something, like where she was more, actually I don't know, whatever it was, like I was really impressed with like, yeah, I was really impressed with her.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, with that.
Really good writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, in terms of the story, what this song is about is just like he has set up himself as ruler over everything, but it has like a few captains. Whereas, Jay-Z's one, Nicki's one, Rick Ross, he has some feature in there as well. It's like these are the people running the show, and I'm like the leader. And so like it kind of like pans off to these people, and that's how what he has set up. But yeah, so we have that song, and the next song, So Appalled. Oh, God, I love that song.
Oh, that was
Appalled.
really good too. Yeah.
So dope. Like,
What was the melody of that song again?
one hand in the air, if you don't really care. Two hands in
That's
the
right, I
air,
remember, yeah,
if you don't really care. It's like that. Sometimes it'd be ridiculous. Anyways,
Yes, I remember.
yeah, and it's really well done. Like the production is phenomenal. Just ear candy to listen to, and everyone kills it. Everyone's verses, like they did a fantastic job. Kanye did great. Jay-Z killed it in this verse.
Yes.
He messed up in Monster, but in this one, oh my God, he dominated. Like the writing, his delivery.
Yes.
Oh my God, just the opening. How should I begin this? I'm just so offended. How am I mentioned by all these fucking beginners? I'm so appalled. And so like the song obviously is like telling people like telling to these each feature like what was something you were so surprised, appalled by when you became rich and famous and attained all this power?
Yeah.
And so everyone had their own take on it. Like Kanye's verse more like
that makes a lot of sense because it was a lot of us talking. I noticed a lot of it was like I know that Kanye has struggled a lot with like his interaction with the media.
yeah.
I noticed that was like a big subject. Of, like,
Yeah, he talks about that, the scrutiny, talking about how he realizes how the system is rigged against people not in his position, and just realizing people are just losing money. He mentions Donald Trump in the song.
Yeah.
He says
He's the prophet, man.
Donald Trump taking dollars from y'all.
Yeah.
Is what he says, and he's like he's taking people like him are taking advantage of people like us. Of course, his views on that individual have changed over time, but it's fine.
It's changed a lot.
But yeah, what I imagine in this one, kind of imagine it like a kind of a scene where there's like a floating stage where each of these artists are kind of sitting there covered in like wealth, just like an insane amount, an excessive amount, wealth, food, women, power, just all in this small white platform that's really well lit. Meanwhile, on the floor that has no lights on it is just everyone else. And basically, Kanye, what I imagine is like this character has enslaved humanity to give him the wealth and prosperity that we often see, in capitalism. And he's just like, you know what? I want to make myself the 1%. So you all give me everything, since I have the power over you. And I think it works out pretty well because they're talking about what appalls them when they reach that point. But when I listen to it, I kind of feel like I'm appalled by how much excess they have in this moment. And I think that dichotomy works out pretty well. So I really, really did enjoy the song. I really like when I'm forgetting his name. The dude who shouts in the end, like super powerful delivery.
Oh.
Hey yo, champagne wishes and 30 white bitches. You know this shit is fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. Like, his delivery is so powerful. People make jokes like, oh, I got to turn my volume down when we reach that point. For me, like, no, turn it up. Like, oh my God, you feel the power behind his voice. And he's not on for very long. He's on for like less than 30 seconds. But man, he makes an impact using those 30 seconds. I apologize for forgetting his name, but he does really well.
To Google, it's RZA.
Oh, RZA. RZA. Okay, how can I forget RZA?
That acronym sounds very familiar.
Oh yeah, Wu-Tang.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, RZA. My apologies to the Wu-Tang Clan.
It's okay.
But yeah, he thank you. He did such a phenomenal job. God, just I wish I need to listen to more of his music because man, his delivery on that. But anyways,
did you listen to a lot of Wu-Tang Clan stuff?
Yeah, not very much actually.
I know they're huge.
Yeah, they are definitely huge. Because Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with, you know.
That's right.
Um,
Did he say that? I don't know.
yeah, that's one of their things they chant.
Okay.
No worries. But yeah, so yeah, we reached that point where clearly he's just enjoying this wealth and kind of enjoying enslaving humanity.
I think that's another theme that I see a lot of like rap, and like within Kanye West also, where they talk a lot about like wealth and like how like on top of the world they are kind of thing. One thing with my general like impression with like rap and things like that is I tend to really enjoy when rap artists talk a lot about like the hardships they've been through like in the past, almost like gorgeous type like songs.
Yeah.
Like I think there's one song that like stuck to me in the past. I forgot what it was called. It was the guy who died, but he was actually alive. Tupac. There was a song. What was it called? It gets better than this.
I'm not as familiar with Tupac.
If I remember sometime, I'll remember. But like,
Sure,
there's one song he's really good that like talks a lot about like how his hardships were like in the past, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times they sort of transition in their lyrics to like, oh, I'm the shit. I have like all this wealth. I have all this like, how to say, like, I've accomplished so much and you guys are like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. I mean, there's a dichotomy that exists because one, the first part is like, yeah, I know what it's like to suffer too and grow up in these environments where suffering is like the name of the game.
Yeah.
But then they switch off to these like, look how fucking wealthy I am. I have money, drugs, bitches, and et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
But they're not doing that to just put down everyone else. Rather, growing up in these harsh environments, they see people enjoy these lives. They see the actors, they see interviews, they see these artists who enjoy life in excess. And they think to themselves, like, man, I would give anything to be not only have that, but to be out of this shitty situation that I'm in. And so it's kind of like forgetting where you are for a while and adopting this different persona. And it's not meant to be like fuck you to everyone else. It's more of just like fuck
the system that I was originally in.
The system, the environment that I'm from.
I see.
Is not really fuck the environment, but like fuck the pain that it causes.
I see.
And so it's
almost like I've made a name for myself and like look where I am kind of thing.
Kind of thing.
See.
So like a lot of pride definitely is involved. And it's just the way it is. I know a lot of people have trouble understanding that. It's like, I don't like that he's so harsh in his lyrics. And I'm like, he doesn't like how harsh his environment growing up was.
Yeah.
And until you've lived that, you can't really speak on that.
Yeah. I've always understood like they've been through like I guess usually a lot of rap artists start out from a place where like Eminem. I guess did Kanye also come from like a?
Kanye's actually a little different. He actually came from a more suburban middle class background.
Okay.
But I know that sounds like then you should not like him.
No.
But what he actually does something with that. So instead of entering the rap game as a gangster rapper, because when he entered rap or the rap scene, it was all gangster rap. And about being very aggressive, violent, and clubs and drinks and weed and all that and crack. Kanye did something else. He's like, what if instead of doing all that, I rap about my insecurities?
Yeah.
I rap about my faith.
Yeah.
I rap about loving my mom. I rap about how I feel sad sometimes.
Yeah. That I appreciate it, and he does a lot of that in his album.
Yeah. And he does that in a lot of albums. Like that's why people resonate so much with him because he presents himself as so human.
Yes.
Sure, if you only listen to the singles, you're only going to hear the ego side of Kanye.
Yeah, I think that was like my also problem coming into this because like that was like all I really knew about Kanye.
Yeah.
And like the theatrics that he did, right?
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Like, there's actually like some like vulnerability and like some part of him that he really exposes in these albums.
Yeah, and he puts a ton of effort into all of his music, but society decided that the egotistical stuff sells better, so they promoted that stuff more.
Yeah, which
yeah,
right,
and it gives everyone the false impression that Kanye is just super egotistical and hates everyone except for himself.
Yeah,
like no, he's got a lot of love for
that,
people.
Yeah.
Like sure, he has an ego, but he also has insecurities. He also cares about people.
Yeah,
like he has a lot going on.
Complicated guy.
Yeah, it's part of the reason why Kanye is often quoted as saying like, don't believe what others tell you to believe. about him or about anything, because like, sure, me being an egotistical asshole sells more, but that's not the whole truth.
Right.
And but people often don't care. They just like believing what they already believe
Yeah.
and have that reaffirmed, and they just consume what's easy to consume.
Yeah.
And I get it; it's fine. And the great thing is, Kanye doesn't let it bother him too much. He addresses it from time to time, but he still makes great music. He still is extremely successful. And so that's why I really admire him. It's just like, even despite all this hate and all this controversy, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep being me, which is successful and amazing.
Yeah.
And he keeps doing it. And there's a lot of irony because like he promotes love. Sure, he loves himself more than he loves like the average person, but in the end, it's a lot of love. People follow these other artists. I don't want to name drop because there'll be controversy, but there are some very famous artists right now who every now and then they'll just diss random people.
Yeah.
And usually Kanye. They'll usually just diss Kanye because Kanye's easy to diss.
Easy target. Yeah.
Yeah. And people will be like, yeah, fuck Kanye because I don't think for myself.
Yeah.
And they just do that, and people go like, oh yeah, I love this artist because he speaks to me so well. Even the part where he randomly attacks other people for no reason. Oh, well, he's just doing his thing. And they try to justify it. And it's not just hip hop artists, it's very popular pop artists now.
I noticed,
who recently dropped a single. Hint, hint. Like, it doesn't matter who they are.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about, but, don't worry.
After the podcast. But they do that. It is like, oh, yeah, I hate this guy. Like, oh, well, this guy is an asshole. Like, but we asked you about your new album. What does he have to do about that? Or we asked you about this recent issue you ran into. What does Kanye have to do with it? Well, he was an asshole to me once. Okay, I guess it sells, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So yeah, and then despite all this, Kanye still persists and he powers on, and he's still an amazing individual. He's done a lot of great.
But that being said, I think he does have flaws, and I think he
absolutely.
And I think what's good is like he embraces that, which is like that's
I mean, we're getting to that part of the album where the flaws start bleeding through quite profusely.
Yeah.
So the next song on the album is "Devil in a New Dress."
What was it?
So appalled, but we finished with that one.
Okay, yes.
"Devil in a New Dress." God, what a beautiful song.
That was good. Yeah.
It's a really sexy song.
Yeah.
Love it. Put your hands to the constellation. The way you look should be a sin. You my sensation.
Yeah, I really like that chorus line. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so well done. I know we ain't married, but tonight I need some consummation. I'm like, ooh, okay, this is a sexy song. All right.
Yeah.
What I also like about the song is like it could be summed up in the following sentence: Kanye goes on a date.
Yeah.
That's all it's about. Just him hanging out with this girl. It's not a great date. It's not going super well, but it's a date.
Yeah.
She's dating him because he has power, and he's dating her because she's beautiful, and so they have a date, and it's fine. And like, sure, he's still the ruler of everything, but things have like calmed down. Time has progressed, where it's no longer like him trying to live in excess all the time. It's just the society has calmed down a little more. It feels a little normal again. He's still like the ruler, but it's fine now. So he goes on his date, and the one part where he says, "I ordered the chicken jerk. She said, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
You should have seen how quiet the room was. No, you see, I always love the sense of humor, but you should have seen how quiet the room was." And I was like, oh my God, it's so funny. And it kind of adds to that story. Like, everyone's like, oh shit, she just dissed the ruler, this demigod ruler. But he just laughed instead. And we're like, okay, cool. We can continue eating. Everyone else in the restaurant was like, okay, we can continue eating and having a good time. So that's what that tells me. And then before Rick Ross's verse, we have that interlude, the guitar solo. Oh my God, that guitar solo. I said this song was sexy. This song becomes sex itself. That guitar solo, oh my God. You listen to it?
I don't remember what the guitar solo was actually.
You should hear it again.
Yeah.
It's Mike Dean, who's like a producer that works with Kanye a lot.
Yeah.
And basically anytime you hear like a sick guitar solo with like some distortion in any Kanye West song, it's Mike Dean.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, his solos are always fucking pieces of art.
Mm-hmm.
And this is no exception. This is like the magnum opus, and it's so good. It's just like, it's beautiful, and it makes me feel good. I'm just like, yes, perfect. And of course, it transitions into Rick Ross's verse. And Rick Ross actually had a similar story to Nicki Minaj, where he was in the studio, he recorded his verse for this song, and then Kanye was like, "Nah, do it again." And then like, "You gotta do better." Like, and Rick Ross was like, "Yeah, it kind of was kind of rude for him to say that." But then, I redid it again, I rewrote it, and I recorded it, and he said, "Yeah, yeah, yep, that's the one."
Oh, interesting.
And it's great because his verse, Rick Ross's verse, really good. It's really nice. It paints this like image of like, yes, he's enjoying the wealth and the power, but he's enjoying it alone. He's alone in this wealth, and he's kind of feeling an existential kind of crisis with it. But he's still very focused on the wealth. He's just trying to focus like, I'm enjoying the wealth. This excess that I have. It's all good. But then again, no, not then again. Just enjoy the wealth. And so like I think it does a really good job with that. Such fantastic.
Yes, for me, like when I also heard this song in particular the first two, because like you said, the last one was like where he was like focused on himself, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
For me, like I think you also have brought us up a little bit. There was definitely some, how to say, like sure, like he's on a date and he's looking to like with another person, but I do notice that they're still not entirely aligned. I'm cheating a little bit because I got my phone in front of me. There's like one line where he's like, "Do you love me? Do you love me for me? Can you be more phony?"
Yeah.
That line. So like that part, you can definitely see like sure, like he's still trying to like get with people or like trying to explore like other people kind of thing, but he noticing that there's still like something missing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, which is.
And that's like his slow transition to where Kanye and like his other artists become like more like how to say, more vulnerable and like showing more like of themselves.
Yeah. This is definitely the transition out of Act 2 into Act 3. But I do really like that line because, like I said in the beginning, he's on this date with his girl and she's dating him because he's powerful, and he's just dating her because she's beautiful, and there's no love. It's just
pretty superficial reasons, man.
Yeah. And he knows that. And like you said, like it kind of begs this question, like, is he really happy then? Like, probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
And then we get to the next song where the answer is very clear. Runaway.
Oh, yes, that one's Runaway, yeah.
Runaway. I love that song so much. At 9 minutes of 6 seconds, 11 seconds, something like that?
One, yeah.
An incredible song. I didn't realize it was 9 minutes long. The first 100 times I listened to it, I thought it was 6 minutes long. And then I was like, wait, it's 9 minutes? Oh my God. Like, I never noticed. But just that opening, that single piano note. Dun, dun, dun. Incredible, because you play that note in almost any space, people will know exactly what song you're talking about.
Yep.
And I think it's incredible that you can have such a distinct signature by doing so little.
There's a lot to be said there's a lot you can say in silence.
Yeah. And so I'm a huge fan of minimalism. So the fact that he can accomplish this profoundness with just a single piano note, just played once per second, and so good. And of course, the song itself starts, production's well done. You have these sampled vocals coming in, and then you get into what the song is about.
Kanye is the one who's singing.
Yes.
This, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's good. That was good.
Yeah, autotune helps.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he's not shy about the fact that he uses autotune. It's fine.
Yeah.
And because he's not a trained professional singer, he's a rapper, a producer, rapper, and then singer.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not afraid to use autotune. It's fine. And I think you acknowledge. I'm not comparing Kanye to Adele or anything like that.
No, man.
He uses autotune, and he uses it well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you mentioned that you thought the song originally was like "fuck the haters,"
Yeah,
let's have a toast to these haters,
and
kind of showboaty, fuck off.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But no, this song
is
about previous relationships that have failed because of his toxicity, how bad of a person he is, and realizing he can't escape it. To me, it's more reflecting of a past relationship that failed, that he's trying to apologize for. He's like, I fucked up, and I'm going to keep fucking up, and I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry you have to deal with me because you're actually a really good person, but I'm just a fuck up. and I will always be this fuck up.
Yeah.
And so, you have that first verse, and then, it gets that point home. Then it gets to that second verse, that bridge. He just says, like, run away from me, baby. Why can't you run away? But then he kind of says it again, but then, like, almost like he's crying while he's saying it, kind of shouting it. And he's, like, begging her, like, run away, please run away. And at first, that confused me a little bit. But then in my head, I realized what the song is in terms of the story is yet another flashback to when he was in a meaningful relationship in his life. And he's trying to apologize to this woman that he actually loved. And within that flashback within the song, there is another one, but like kind of like a ghost of him is watching this past go on, and he sees the date where everything goes wrong, and he knows what's about to happen because he lived it already. And so he's begging her. She's sitting at this table at a cafe. She's just sitting there, and he's like yelling at her, run away, just run away from me, baby, just please run. And of course she can't hear him. He's just a ghost. This is all in his imagination. But he's on his hands and knees begging her, tears rolling down his face, please run away before I show up, because once I show up, everything's doomed. Just please run. And of course, she can't hear him. She doesn't run away. And then the hymn of that time shows up. And then we get Pusha T's verse. And what's actually funny...
Sorry, just a hold back.
Yeah.
So, in the story that you've created for the album, how do you think Kanye got to this point where, like, he's, like, thinking about, or, like, looking back at his past?
Yeah. So we mentioned in Devil's New Dress, he was on that date.
Correct, yeah.
But kind of unfilling. You love me for me, could you be more phony?
Yep.
And so after the date's over, with Rick Ross's reflection on, like, yeah, I have this wealth, but I'm also alone, it kind of combines together, and that idea hits the character at the time, that this date, it happened, but it wasn't great. He's not fulfilled. And he realizes he can't use his power to be fulfilled. And he starts self-reflecting.
Okay.
Like, when did I have the power to make myself feel happy? Like, when I was with her. But what happened? I fucked it up. And so he's thinking about that now. And yeah, so we have Pusha T's verse in Runaway. And what's interesting is, at first I didn't know who Pusha T was when I first heard this song many, many years ago.
Yeah.
I thought he was like a producer or something. Because when I first heard Pusha T's verse, I didn't realize it was someone else's voice. It sounds so much like Kanye's voice. It just sounded like he adopted like a deeper voice. Because in the song, he's like singing most of the time, like almost the whole time he's singing. And I thought, like, oh, okay, now he's doing his rapping voice, which is why it sounds a little different, but not too different. And so I thought it was the same voice, but it turns out no, it's a completely different human being, you idiot. I'm like, oh. I've now grown to love Pusha T. He's a fantastic artist, fantastic rapper. But anyways, so we get Pusha T's verse where it is not self-reflective. It is not apologetic. It's just him saying, like, hey, I'm the thing you should be running from. 24/7, 365, pussy stays on my mind.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I did it. All right, I admit it. Now pick your next move. You can leave or live with it. Very unapologetic. Like, yeah, I cheated on you. So what? What are you going to do about it? You're going to leave or are you going to stay? And he tells her, like, you can go ahead and leave because there's plenty of other hoes who want to be in your position because they want the money I give them, the clothes I buy them, the jewelry I get them. They want that. All that stuff I got you, you should know there's a price tag on all of that. And you should be lucky. You should be, like, so happy that you have grateful, this. Right? Yeah, grateful. Yeah. And so, like, complete opposite. And I imagine that in the story.
That confused me, like, when I saw those two differing, like,
voices, right? So, yeah, to me, it was just like Pusha T's verse is the thing that Kanye is telling her to run from. It's like, you need to run away from me because this is who I was and am. A toxic, terrible human being. And so Pusha T delivers that really, really well. And so it's just heartbreaking. And he just says, after Pusha T's verse, he just says, never much was a romantic. I could never deal with the empathy. I know I did damage because of the way you look at me. I don't know how I'll manage if one day you just up and leave. I skipped like a line or two. But yeah, he realizes he's just devastated by her loss because she eventually does end up walking away.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we have that end of the album, the 3-minute outro of just him, his distorted voice, kind of repeating the chorus over and over again, but very, very distorted that you can't even understand most of it most of the time. But I think it's really, really good. I know a lot of people think it kind of drones on for a little too long, but I love it. It's art. Like you just hear it, and it's not about the it's not about the words anymore. It's about the emotion he's putting behind what he's saying, even though you can't really understand what he's saying,
Mhm.
but you can still hear him.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, you don't hear his words, you hear his emotions. And I think he does that really, really well.
I guess like it kind of fits your story in that like he's reflecting back at those times. Maybe it's almost like his memories are getting fuzzled or something, or like he's coming back to the present. Or maybe it's also like a thing where, I guess the second verse where he has these where there's two personalities. It's like where you have one that's like get the fuck away from me, and then the second personality is, hey, I'm like this bad person kind of thing. It's like maybe the distortion is like that blending between the two kind of a thing. Oh.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, but I think you're right in that it fits the emotions. That like it's trying to go for.
Absolutely.
It's shoegaze.
I don't know if shoegaze is not the right word for that, but it's definitely really well done. And then doing well with the next song. Next song is Hell of a Life.
Correct, yes.
And yeah, this is we're in the middle of the third act, which is like the downfall. And Hell of a Life is kind of just him drowning himself in pleasure while he still can, trying to escape the reality where he's alone, he's heartbroken, his power doesn't make him happy. And he also realizes he hasn't really fixed many of the issues. He just took advantage. Instead of being the savior, he ended up being a leech.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's just trying to drown himself in pleasure. I think I just fell in love with a porn star. To turn the camera on, she a porn star, and all that kind of stuff. Kind of talking about, I'm just having a lot of sex, and religion. He just says, no more drugs for me. Pussy and religion is all I need.
I remember that line, yeah.
And so he's like, I'm just trying to drown himself in pleasure and trying to forget, like, everything I've done wrong. Because I've done a lot wrong at this point. Just realizing that his lifestyle is completely unsustainable. And it's not working. And I won't spend too much time on the song because it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. There was one part he did mention that I did want to talk about. He says, she said her price go down, she ever fuck a black guy or do anal or do a gangbang. It's funny, that's all considered the same thing. And he's kind of reflecting just like, wow, how fucked up is that? That if this porn star ever fucks a black guy, her value as a porn actress goes down, which is actually a real thing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's pretty bad.
That's kind of fucked up.
It is fucked up. There is a bit of a pushback against it, I guess, but it's still very much present.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's racist.
That's like pretty racist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Racism is as American as baseball.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty bad.
Okay.
And so he mentions that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm glad he put that out there because, like, yeah, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's a thing. But anyways, yeah.
Is the porn industry regulated? Is it legal, right?
It's legal, yeah. Prostitution's mostly illegal.
Okay.
Which is dumb.
Yeah.
But anyways,
that's a different conversation.
Yeah, different conversation, definitely. So then we jump into the next one, which is Blame Game.
I like this one, yeah.
Yeah. Let's play the blame game. I love you.
Apparently it's John Legend.
Yes, it is. Yeah, John Legend.
I saw his name on the lyrics. I was like, whoa.
Yep.
Interesting, yeah.
John Legend has worked with Kanye and a lot of other hip-hop artists. It's very common for John Legend to be on like a hip-hop track.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and bless him for it. He has fantastic mastery of the piano, creating simple yet beautiful melodies, and it's a fantastic voice as well. But yeah,
you can definitely tell like the struggle or like how to say the pain in his voice when like he's talking about like this how to say failed relationship that there's that.
Talking about Kanye's verse. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, the lyrics on here are pretty straightforward. The metaphors are pretty much gone at this point. Yeah. The illusion of power and grandeur are gone. Kanye now realizes he's on a downward spiral. Things are falling apart. He no longer feels any joy or love for the things around him, and he's trying his best to deal with like this separation from this person he loves, and it's
Yeah,
really
this
hard.
is very different from like the egotistical Kanye that we all like knew beforehand, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like different from like power, different
Yep.
from like all the lights. Like it's
Yeah.
it's very interesting transition when it hit this point of the album. It's like wow, it's totally different from like what he was like going for.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just the whole time, just him talking about like, yeah, everything's falling apart, everything's fucked up. I mean, just give that song a quick listen. You'll know exactly what the song's about.
Mhm.
And then there's that outro with Chris Rock, that skit at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is Chris Rock, by the
That's
way.
right. Yeah, it is Chris Rock.
Yeah, which is really cool to hear him on
Was
the album.
that? Did you write it for the song?
Yep.
Or? Oh, I didn't. Okay.
Kanye asked him, he's like, hey,
Okay.
you want to be on this album and do something? He's like,
Okay.
yeah. And of course, Chris Rock's part is basically just to say, like, Kanye, this woman he's in love with, even though she no longer loves him, has moved on to be with someone else. The someone else is Chris Rock. And the reason you hear his voice is because Kanye says, like, he called her, she didn't pick up, but then she dialed him back accidentally, quote unquote. And you just hear the conversation she's having with Chris Rock. And the whole conversation, to spare people from the details, he is praising her ability in bed.
And like
in detail.
And the only thing she says is like,
Yeah.
easy taught me.
Yeah, and she's like, how did you learn to be good at sex and how to treat a man right? And like, why are you so good at all of these things? He's like, oh yeah, Kanye taught me, Yeezy taught me. Like, that's how I learned from. And he's just like, wow, that's amazing. And he gets really into detail about like why she's so good in bed. And he's like, yeah, Yeezy taught me. Yeezy taught me. And so it's, of course, having this character listen in on that conversation is just completely devastating, would be completely devastating.
But like, I guess maybe, I don't know how like the character that Chris Rock plays,
Yeah.
I don't know how he feels. Cause like, if I were in his position, I feel like I would be like, oh shit, like this guy, like, this demigod figure, like how am I ever gonna compare to this guy, right? But I guess that's not really what like Chris Rock was saying, right?
Not at all.
Yeah,
I feel like at this point in the album, Kanye has kind of like far gone his powers. He's like, yeah, I have these powers, but they haven't gotten me anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I am miserable because I've used them so much.
Mm-hmm.
And he realizes like, I don't want to use them anymore.
Yeah.
Either that or he's just drained himself of the power once he realizes he's emotionally a wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, once the song ends, we get into the last track. Well, I call it the last track, even though it's broken up to two tracks.
Yeah.
They're one and the same. Lost in the World, a beautiful song. And to me, I'll tell you what it is in the story first. Kanye decides to like take a break from everything and just ends up running into like a city, downtown city, and realizes two things. One, even though he created all this, he doesn't belong here. It's completely different. It's evolved on its own. And the second thing he realizes is in this evolution, society completely circled back to where it was when he started. Racism still an issue. Capitalism, like the people who are still on top and taking advantage of people who are poor and all that. And he feels so confused, so conflicted, and completely devastated. Like, oh my God, I completely failed and just reinstated all this. I got rid of it all and built it back up again. And he realizes by staying on Earth for too long, he had become a problem himself. And he realized that the money was the root of all this problem. The want of it, the greed of it. So he says, you're my heaven, you're my hell, you're my angel, you're my devil, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of saying like, yeah, I wanted you, but you're also the reason all these bad things are happening. And he feels like, holy shit, it's my fault. I'm the guilty party. I'm no better than everyone else. I came in thinking like I had trained with these angels up in this heaven place. I was a demigod. I thought I could fix it all. But no, I just remade it. And he realized that he's completely like just lost his soul in it.
Yeah, because it's an interesting callback to like the issues that he was talking about in Gorgeous, where like there's a lot of racist shit going on, there's a lot of wealth and excess causing problems. And like he talks all that at begin here, and like
Yeah.
still says all these problems still exist. What was it like? What was the last track called? It was like something survive. Who will
Who will survive in America?
Yeah, like that very much goes to show that like the helplessness like still exists.
Yep.
Like the problem still exists.
Yeah. And if anyone who's paying attention to the album, you would know that this is where it was all ending up, because you get hints of this throughout the whole album. Like when he did Power and decided to take all the power for himself and use it and abuse it.
Yes, yeah.
Instead of, because he says, "Do you have the power to let power go to like help humanity?" His answer was no.
Yeah, he didn't let it go.
And then he ended up making himself, the 1% of the world. And it's like, oh shit, that's how it is right now. And you slowly see he's like recreating all that, even though he was sent to dismantle it.
Do you think it's a self-reflection of who Kanye is himself, or do you think it's like...
I was actually going to bring that up at the very end, but I'll bring it up now. No, we're at the end. We're pretty much at the end.
Okay, yeah.
So,
spoilers, sorry.
Kanye, like I said, he wrote and made this album after the Taylor Swift incident.
Yeah.
He realized after that incident, he got all that hate from it. Rightfully so. I'm not going to argue he didn't deserve it. He did deserve it. He realized that the attitudes and the behaviors and the approach to life he had up to that point, even though it brought him success to this point, he made him like a multi-platinum selling artist. He is a brand name, or not brand name, like a home name and whatever. He realizes that after that incident, that kind of living was unsustainable. It was no longer going to work. It may have worked for his first 1, 2, 3, 4 albums, but it wasn't going to work after that. If he wanted to continue being successful, he would have to change. And so he wrote this album to talk about that. In the beginning, this character is excessive, powerful, a demigod, a ruler above all, just like Kanye was. But then this character slowly learns, like, that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't bring me the happiness that I want to feel anymore. I need to change. And of course, this character learns that way too late. But Kanye, of course, himself learned at just the right time. He dropped this album and it's kind of a redemption arc to him. Just like people realize, oh, okay, so he kind of learned this lesson. But yeah, we get Lost in the World. It kind of wraps up and we transition into Who Will Survive in America, which I really think it should have been just one song. I don't know why it's 2 songs. But
because the last part is like basically some dude was talking
spoken word.
Sorry.
Yeah, us living as we do upside down, and basically this gentleman, I'm forgetting his name on the top of my head. He's a reverend. He basically gives a speech on talking about how there is not only systemic racism that plagues the nation, but that it's historic. And he gives this very graphic imagery of America being this woman that these European men, white men, like raped repeatedly over and over and over and took advantage of her to get what they wanted. And that they did. And now she's this abused, scarred woman and she's trying to survive. And we're suffering the consequences of that right now. If we had treated her better, had been a little more better human beings about this whole thing, we'd be in a better position now, but we're not. A lot of
what has happened is a result of like a lot of crappy atrocities in the past, right?
Murders, rapes, a lot of that.
And like the whole a slavery experience is like a huge rooted in like a lot of the racism that occurs in America, right?
Yep, yeah. Absolutely. Still a huge problem. And so he kind of talks about that. And at the end he says, build a new route to China if they'll have you. Kind of saying like, if things fail here, go to China. Like that's how bad it is here. Like he doesn't say go to Europe or go to Spain or anything, because he's like, no, it's their ancestors that were a part of this problem. So let's just go to China, even though China has a history of that as well.
They got issues.
There's issues everywhere.
Yep.
But then of course he ends with saying that refrain over and over again: "Who will survive in America? Who will survive in America?" And in terms of the story, what I'm imagining is Kanye's walking around kind of disheveled, kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, I failed. And he kind of stumbles past this little church, hole-in-the-wall church, where the reverend is giving his speech, but it still pans back to Kanye doing his thing, or the character, I should say. And he ends up walking into an alley where I told you, like, America's been raped. Her often entered vagina is what the line says. and he's witnessing this woman being raped by several men. This, Native American woman being raped by all these white men, and just seeing it, and he's just like, wait, in my world, that's not supposed to happen. Like, I didn't create this, but he's in denial, obviously. Obviously, he created this. He's responsible, and he realizes like he got corrupted just like everyone else. That he's as responsible for that for everyone who's currently a part of that scene, that graphic scene in front of him. He's just as responsible, and he's just shocked, and he starts backing away, and he backs into someone. He turns around, and he sees that it's just him again. And I haven't decided if this second version of him ends up stabbing him and then joins in on the rape, or just goes on the rape and Kanye just has a mental breakdown and doesn't die, but like is no longer functional after this because he realized like, holy shit, I'm a part of this. And to me, that's how the story ends. Just like the obelisk, the prophecy foretold. He could be powerful, and then he slowly decline and end up on the floor, unable to do anything, with nothing fixed.
Yeah, I guess that's interesting, because like I imagine like this does not necessarily have to happen to like a demigod, right? It could happen to
anyone,
or anyone who like amasses power.
Yeah.
Anyone that,
like I said, it's an analogy of what Kanye felt during that moment of his life, during those years of his life.
Yeah.
He was powerful. People loved him. And then the VMA incident.
To be an agent for good, but then he ended up perpetuating the issues.
Yep. And so that's what the story's about. And anyone could fall victim to these things. So yeah.
Actually, I guess like even not within like celebrities, but like even within like power and governments, right? Like, whenever you see, like in ancient history and shit, you have like a government, and then like they get too greedy, people try to rise up and like destroy the government, and they become like the people that they set out to destroy, and then like the cycle of like power continues.
Exactly.
Kind of a thing, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yep. So yeah, that's what the album to me is about. I'm sure people have their own interpretations. I left out a lot of background stuff I know about the album.
Yeah.
But just because I wanted to put my story out there.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And my take on it.
For me, my general experience was I saw this as like the beginning with Gorgeous. Like I saw like, okay, there's shit going on. It's like it's a problem.
Yeah.
And then you have like the very empowering, powerful songs like Power and like All the Lights, like pumping you up, like, oh, it's alright, there's shit going on, but like you can rise above
we can, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And then after that, you have the more vulnerable songs, like, oh wait, no, I actually can't rise up against that. There's like, I got my own issues I'm dealing with.
Okay, yeah.
And then loop back again to what's Who Will Survive in America? What's the second last song? No,
Lost in the World.
Thank you, Lost in the World. Yeah, that one was like where he reflects again. It's like, oh shit, there's like just this shit still exists, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I like the story that you had created with like, because it makes sense, because like that is like the journey that Kanye is going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. You came up with that. You came that shit up yourself.
Well, I mean, inspired by Kanye's events.
Yeah.
Once I saw what he go through, I'm like, oh, this is just an analogy for that.
Yeah.
And like then I started connecting things together, and that's what plays in my head when I listen to this album.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, it actually is very informative, because like I think looking at like what the artists like go through, like you can definitely see a lot what they're going, like what they're struggling with.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the albums that I had like was thinking about showing was the Korean band like Epic High.
Yeah.
One interesting story about one of those guys was his one of the rap artists is his actual name is Daniel, but he goes by Tablo.
Okay.
He's an actual like literature student he used to go to Stanford and be like a literature student. Well,
oh, nice.
I guess
okay.
I don't know if I told you, but it's irrelevant because it's the podcast. But
no worries. Yeah.
The story was that so he went to like Stanford, like got a degree, and then like became like a cool rap artist. But what was a struggle was that a lot of people, there was like a huge like crazy internet group that like basically said like, oh, we demand the truth from Tablo. Like, you actually didn't go to Stanford. Number one, like, who the fuck cares? To like, it really messed him up really hard, because people kept sending him death threats and stuff like that. It's the worst. That. Some Korean fan groups is just crazy.
Yeah.
But like, it really messed him up, and then as a result, you can kind of see a lot of his music like during that time period, like reflect that
Yeah.
that part of him. So that's really cool, like seeing like life events of artists, like impact the music that they do.
Yeah, same with Hospice, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, with
Yeah,
Hospice,
that's-
you didn't confirm it, but
Life imitates art, art imitates life.
yeah, no, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
And like to be honest, like the story that Kanye has painted, like that very well could happen again, where like someone like has like good intentions, gets a lot of power, but uses it for the wrong reasons because they get corrupted for like different things and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a good warning story.
Yeah.
And also it's a good like self reflection that Kanye has.
It's a good cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah. Do you think Kanye? Well, I don't know what he's up to these days. Do you think Kanye has learned from like his life of? I saw once again. I'm really innocent, so I have no idea. Like,
I want to say yes and a little bit no. Mostly yes, but a little bit no.
Because I know he has a much better relationship with what's her face, Kardashian. Yeah, Kim Kardashian, right?
With Kim, yeah, definitely. What's interesting is the reason I smiled when you said that was because the next album, Yeezus, which is my favorite Kanye album, to me is like a thought exercise of like, sure, by the end of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, he learned his lesson, like, oh shit, I fucked up.
Yes.
But then what if instead of learning his lesson, he didn't and just went off the deep end completely? To me, that's what Yeezus is. To me.
Okay.
So he still has all this power, it's still corrupted. I won't talk about it too much because that'll be another episode.
Next episode.
But maybe not next episode, but a future episode.
Oh, future episode, guys.
But yeah, no, I think in his personal life, yes, he learned, and which is why he has been more humble. Still, Kanye being Kanye and being himself, but like definitely done better than he was doing before. But yeah, and that's why I think I love this album. It's very powerful, influential. It did a lot of good things really, really well.
I think putting that structure, putting that story also provides a lot of structure. I really like the take that you took on it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, no, I enjoyed sharing it.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and thank you for listening.
Oh yeah, man.
And I think we're gonna have to call it there because we're at 2.5 hours.
Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys.
A lot longer than I had originally planned. But hey, here we are.
Yeah.
So, Chris, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Absolutely, thank you.
I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed it. The whole experience, not just being here, but the listening to the album, the drinks. I hope you enjoyed everything about it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roberto. Once again, shout out to my brother James for introducing me to Moscow Mule and Hospice. And thanks a lot, Roberto, for bringing me on and being your first guest.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in the future, if you want to come back on, we can make something work for sure.
All right, for sure.
All right. Well, this is the RG podcast you've been listening to. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Stay toasty.